18th, 2025 Village Board meeting to order. And I'm going to have Izzy lead us in the pledge today. Noah, come on up. We can just start off.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please, Tracy.
President Koenig?
Here.
Trustee Michaels?
Here.
Trustee White?
Here.
Trustee Linton?
Here.
Trustee Aaron?
Here.
Trustee Bonnie?
Here.
Trustee Jones?
Absent. First of all, we do have a quorum this evening. I just want to recognize my special guests in the room this evening. I have Izzy and I have Noah Julian. They are children, Laura Julian, who has been our attorney for many years and with the law firm that is right down the road since 1993. So before we get there, I just wanted you to know I had these two children sitting next to me in the dais. So let's move on. So now we have a public hearing, and under public hearing this evening we have annexing property on Denny Road for the Fire Protection District. Danny.
Did you want to change your answer?
We have received an application from the fire department to annex a portion of their property that they have on Denny Road. They have had this property on Denny Road for many years. They own 4 parcels. The 2 front parcels are currently annexed into the village. The 2 rear parcels are not annexed into the village. They are wishing to construct a training facility on the property, and in order to move forward, they need to annex the remaining 2 parcels into the village, so this is the required public hearing in order to do so.
Thank you. Okay, I'd like to open the public hearing at this time. If you have any comments under this public hearing, you have 3 minutes to make public comment. So the public hearing is officially open at 6:03. If anybody would like to speak about the annexation of this property, please come to the podium. Going once. Going twice. 3 times. We'll close that portion. Okay, up next we have some proclamations this evening. So first, I'm going to have Izzy and Noah. Can you join me at the front in front of the TVs there? We're going to get a water right up. And then everyone from the firm, let's get the rest of the firm right up front with us. We're going to stay right here. Bernie, you can grab it because we know we're going to take photos. Okay? So this is a proclamation for Mickey Wilson, Weiler, Renzi, Leonard, and Julian. PC, dated today, March 18th of 2025. Whereas the Village of Sugar Grove is committed to upholding fairness, justice, and integrity, guided by legal counsel that prioritizes the well-being of its residents. And whereas the esteemed law firm, Mickey Wilson, Weiler, Renzi, Leonard, Julian, PC, has provided exceptional legal services and counsel to the Village of Sugar Grove from May 24th of 1993 to February 4th of 2025, offering invaluable support that has contributed to the village's growth, safety, and prosperity. And whereas throughout their tenure, Mickey Wilson, Weiler, Renzi, Leonard, and Julian PC has played a vital role in shaping and interpreting village ordinances, contracts, and policies, ensuring that local governance remains effective, transparent, and legally sound. And whereas the attorneys and dedicated staff of Mickey Wilson, Weiler, Renzi, Leonard, and Julian PC have exemplified the highest standards of professionalism, integrity, and dedication, working diligently to ensure the seamless execution of municipal policies, resolution of complex legal matters, and protection of the village's best interests. And whereas Mickey Wilson, Weiler, Renzi, Leonard, and Julian PC has has been a steadfast partner in guiding the Village of Sugar Grove through legal challenges, safeguarding the rights of our citizens, and securing the future of our community. Now therefore it be resolved that I, Jennifer Conan, President of the Village of Sugar Grove, on behalf of the Board of Trustees and the entire community, do hereby proclaim March 18, 2025 as Mickey Wilson, Wiley, Renzi, Leonard, and Julian P.C. Day in the Village of Sugar Grove, and extend our deepest gratitude to its attorneys and staff for their dedicated service, exceptional professionalism, and lasting contributions to the village's legal and civic issues. Dated this day, March 18, 2025. So, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for helping me at the diet. Okay. Thanks, Bernie. Slide in. Got another one. Thank you, Scott. Okay. One more. We have a proclamation honoring Janet Wallace's contributions to the Village of Sugar Grove. So if I can get her family to meet me at the front. Want any kids with you? So just so everyone knows, we have an honorary street program in Sugar Grove that we enacted just a few years ago. And so this is a proclamation for Janet Wallace. Whereas Janet Wallace, a well-known figure in the Sugar Grove community, shared her artistic talents with us for over 15 years, teaching art classes from her home. And whereas Janet inspired confidence and creativity in both children and adults through her art classes. And whereas Janet dedicated numerous hours to bringing art into schools, she painted detailed holiday and seasonal murals on the windows of John Shields Elementary, and volunteered for face painting and arts and crafts at holiday parties. Janet even gave an assembly at John Shields, where she read her poetry to the students and shared her art. And whereas Janet taught Confraternity of Christian Doctrine, CCD, and volunteered much of her time at St. Patrick's Church, she painted a large rain barrel with a detailed sunflower motif for the church. Janet loves sunflowers, and much like the flower itself, she radiated positivity and joy to those around her. And whereas Janet combined her passion for art and community service by offering complimentary art classes to students who brought her canned goods to donate, she personally delivered the collected items to the food pantries. And whereas Janet's most cherished role was as a devoted wife and mother, her 6 daughters were her world, and both her family and the entire community deeply feel her loss. And whereas, although Janet is no longer physically with us, her spirit, talent, kindness, and compassion continue to inspire us. Her legacy lives on in the hearts of those who she touched and the community she enriched. Now therefore, I, Jennifer Conan, President of the Village of Sugar Grove, on behalf of the Board of Trustees and all the residents, would like to express our heartfelt gratitude to Janet Wallace for sharing her talent, generosity, and kind heart with the residents of the Village of Sugar Grove. She will always be remembered. Dated this day of March. So I'm just going to, we want to honor her. Located at Cross Street and Main Street, because she did dedicate much of her time and efforts to the students of John Shields Elementary. So I want to turn the floor over.
Good evening. I'd love to thank Village President Jennifer Corley, and the Village Management Advisory Group, and the Village Trustees for having us here tonight to put through the proclamation for Janet Wallace's street sign. It's an honor for our family to be able to accept this incredible opportunity to remember our mother. I'm certain those of you who knew Janet would agree that she was as radiant as a sunflower. It was very fitting that the sunflowers were her favorite, considering they follow the sun wherever it goes. Janet lit up every room with her bright smile, exuberant personality, and joyful presence. Her laughter was contagious, and she had the gift of touching the heart of anyone who came into her path. For 15 years, Janet taught art classes out of her home. She not only taught kids how to draw and paint, but she also taught them self-confidence, determination, and perseverance. Janet was able to help children who had never made art create masterpieces through simple steps. Creating these paintings, drawings, and sculptures instilled the confidence in young students to accomplish other dreams and goals in life. It was truly remarkable to watch Janet instruct children as young as 5 years old, create pieces of art that often looked professional. She was a brilliant artist, teacher, and mother. Janet also contributed much of her time to the Sugar Grove community, painting holiday windows on John Shields Elementary School, face painting at festivals, creating custom backdrops for school plays, helping at school holiday parties, and providing free art classes during the holidays in exchange for food pantry items were only a fraction of the ways she donated her time. Through these selfless acts of kindness, Janet lit up our community with beautiful art that touched so many people, making Sugar Grove a better place to live. Janet and her husband Dana built their house, Memories and Lives in Sugar Grove. It was in this town that we celebrated the most memorable birthday parties, sleepovers, graduations, and holidays. Because Sugar Grove was such an important place to my parents, they chose to be buried in the Sugar Grove Cemetery, where they will be together for eternity. Although Janet is no longer physically with us, I know her presence here tonight is strong through her shining spirit. I can speak for all of the Wallace girls when I say that it was truly an honor to be Janet's daughters for the short period of time that we did have her. Again, we are eternally grateful for this incredible way to honor our mother and remember her for years to come. Thank you so much.
And then this cute one who looks like she's in Matilda Jane. Is she? Oh, it looks like it. Okay. Can you get us all, please? Yeah.
Thank you.
I just want to thank you on behalf of my family. Janet was one of 12. I'm the youngest of 12 children, and she had a lot of brothers and sisters who really loved her very much.
The community, putting into the community is such a wonderful thing, and this is our simple way of honoring her and all of you, so thank you very much. Thank you. Be well. You bet. Thank you. Thank you. We will contact you when the sign is ready for install, so that you all can gather when we do the install. Okay? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, up next, under appointments and presentations, we have a housekeeping item, but it's an appointment of James Vasili and Mike.
They want to go.
Oh, I'm sorry, thank you. If anybody is interested in leaving at this time, feel free. We have a very long agenda. Very long agenda. Obviously you can listen, but totally get it if you're interested in leaving. Thank you. Thank you.
She wants to leave the meeting.
She say?
She wants to leave the meeting.
I was gonna say, does she want to find out?
She would love to. Thank you.
Thank you. And so if anybody would like to grab a seat that's open, feel free. Feel free. Okay. So this is like I said, a housekeeping item under appointments and presentations. Appointment of James Vasili and Michael Garrigan as deputy clerks for the Village of Sugar Grove. Scott?
Thank you. So I, as the village administrator, can appoint employees to be deputy village clerks, but the village code requires that on advice and consent from the president and the village board, any non-employees be appointed. This will allow for in executive session, if need be, that our village attorney can serve as the clerk.
Thank you. Any questions? A motion to approve the appointment of Vasily Law as for James Vasily and Michael Garrigan as deputy clerks for the village of Shinnerborough.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
I have a first out of trustee Heron, second out of trustee Bonnie. Roll call, please.
Trustee Heron.
Aye.
Trustee Bonnie.
Aye.
Trustee Michaels.
Aye.
Trustee White.
Aye.
Trustee Lindy.
Thank you, motion carries. I just want to ensure everybody can hear me. I feel like I'm not echoing. I don't know if you can hear me through that speaker, and can you hear every other board member? Sometimes our voices. So I'm just going to ask, we have a lot of items on our agenda that we all speak clearly into our microphones, as folks definitely want to hear what we have to say. Okay, up next under airport report, Tony Special was here and he had to leave, so we do not have an airport report this evening. Public comment on items scheduled for action. Just give me one moment as I read through the items that we will be voting on this evening. Under consent agenda, item A, approval of the March 4th, 2025 board meeting minutes. Item B, approval of the vouchers. Item C, approval of the February 2025 treasurer's report. Item D, an ordinance approving a special use permit for TrueVet. Under general business, item A, a resolution approving final plat of subdivision for lot 66 and 68 on Neal Street. That's the Nash property. Items B, approval of the commercial property enhancement program criteria. Item C, a resolution approving purchase of rock salt contract for 2025. Item D, a resolution authorizing Finance Director Matt Anastasia to serve as a trustee on the Illinois Public Reserves Investment Management Trust. Item E, a resolution approving number of liquor licenses for 2024-2025. Item F, approval of a liquor license for on-premise liquor license for Cilantro Taco Grill located at 519 Sugar Grove Parkway, Unit F, Sugar Grove. Those are all the items that we will be voting on this evening. So if you have a public comment on those particular items, this would be that portion of the meeting to address the board. So I have Marion, no, nothing on this, I know where you want to speak. Okay, Jeremy, same thing I assume. Mark Strusser, same, okay. Does anyone else have a public comment, please? Lewis.
Hi, Lou Lenny. I just wanted to ask a question real quick as you guys look at the special use permit for the vet. I know a lot of time was spent talking about cleaning up after the animals in the backyard, but whenever you go to the vet, usually you try and let your animal take care of its business beforehand. So will these folks also be taking some responsibility for cleaning the landscape islands and things like that? So I just wanted to point that out. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Any additional public comments at this time? Okay. Going once, going twice, 3 times we'll close that portion. Up next, consent agenda. Any request to remove an item? Hearing none, can I get a motion to approve? Can you not hear me? It's not loud enough? I don't know if my battery's. Okay, I'm gonna get better right here. No, I got it. Oh, there we go. Okay, thank you. Hearing no request to remove an item, can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda as previously stated?
So moved.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a first out of trustee White, second out of trustee Heron. Roll call, please, Tracy.
Trustee White.
Aye.
Trustee Heron.
Aye.
Trustee Michaels.
Aye.
Trustee Lindy. Aye. Trustee Bonnie.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries 5-0. Okay, up next, the item A, resolution approving final plat of subdivision for lot 66 and 68 on Neal Street. Danny.
Okay, at the previous board meeting, the board discussed approving a final plat of subdivision for 66 and 68 Neal Street. Currently, it is one single lot with a duplex on it. The homeowners are wishing to subdivide the property into 2 separate parcels to eventually possibly sell off one side of the duplex. Before you, you have a resolution for approval that would approve the final plat of subdivision and an ordinance for approval, and the ordinance would approve the variances that were being requested for the lot width and size and the side yard setback. And it also will address the requirement for the duplex to remain the same on both sides by recording that ordinance.
Thank you, Danny. Any questions out of the board or discussion?
We're gonna record the variance ordinance, right?
Yes.
Thank you, Danny.
Perfect.
Okay. Any other questions?
Make a motion to approve.
Thank you.
Second.
I have a first out of trustee, yes, I'm sorry.
I just want to clarify that the motion that you made, Jamie, is both for the resolution and the ordinance.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have a first out of trustee White, second out of trustee Herron. Roll call, please, Tracy.
Trustee White?
Aye.
Trustee Herron?
Aye.
Trustee Michaels?
Aye.
Trustee Lundy.
Aye.
Trustee Bonnie?
Aye.
Thank you, motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Up next, we have approval of the commercial property enhancement program criteria. Michael.
Village President Conan and Village Trustees, I'm presenting the proposed revisions to the Commercial Property Enhancement Program, known as CPEP. The Village Board discussed this program on February 4th. The key proposed revisions would add planters, window boxes, benches, and trash receptacles as eligible expenses. General repairs have been removed from the criteria. In addition, exterior painting, this is an important change. In addition, exterior painting that is done in conjunction with other enhancements would be an eligible expense. However, the cost of the painting will only be reimbursed at 50% of the total cost. There are two important provisions in these revisions. Number one, all the work must represent an enhancement to the property. And number two, other exterior improvements that are not in the program criteria may still be considered by the village board. The current criteria and a red line version of the changes have been provided to you. In addition, it is recommended that the new review committee consist of the village president and a trustee appointed by the village president, as well as the economic development and community development directors. Danny and I would continue to initially meet with the property owner. The review committee would then make the recommendation on the grant application to the village board. Thank you, and I would be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Michael. This has definitely gone through some ebbs and flows in several meetings. Any questions or discussion, additional notes for Michael?
Why are pages 15 through 19 included? It basically looks like the same application, and there's no changes.
You don't have a red line.
That's before it, but I don't know why the other one was included.
Well, I included the original, parts of the original current program. The red line document is what is being changed.
So,
The application form, the other stuff wouldn't change.
so it looks like though the red line is different than the actual document, so I think he's showing what the original program looked like.
Correct.
And then there were amendments made through discussion, and then it was redlined from there. So he's showing you the way it was, and then he's showing you the subsequent changes that went through the process after discussion.
That's correct.
Thank you, Michael. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, can I get a motion to approve the commercial property enhancement program criteria in the red line version?
So.
Do I have a second?
Second.
First out of trustee Herron, second out of trustee Bonnie. Roll call, please, Tracy.
Trustee Herron?
Aye.
Trustee Bonnie?
Aye.
Trustee Michaels?
No.
Trustee White?
Aye.
Trustee Lundy.
Aye. Thank you, motion carries 4-1.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Up next, item C, a resolution approving purchase of rock salt contract for 2025.
Good evening. It's time to start thinking about next snow removal season. So before you is the resolution to participate in the state's bid program for next year. They typically award this in June, July-ish. We unfortunately do not have pricing, but based on historical trends, it should be about what last year was, around $75, $80 a ton. So Matt has included $80 a ton in the budget, the 1,200 tons.
In the budget, it seemed like there are two line items.
So one is the actual salt, and the other is the like BD liquid that they put down. So there's not only the salt purchase, which is what he's approving, It's also the liquid that they're putting down
And
with.
they're about the same price.
So we budget about 25,000 for the liquid and then $80 a ton for just the salt.
In the past, this has been the best way to do it, most cost effective.
And you acquired your 80% this year. Did
We
you
have.
exceed the 80% based on what's
The
left?
shed is full, and we have about 80%, so I don't anticipate having to buy more.
Okay.
Fingers crossed.
Matt, are you budgeting at 100%?
Yeah, that's 1,200 tons.
Okay. Any other discussion or questions?
Make a motion to approve the resolution to purchase them all.
Thank you. I have a first out of trustee Michaels. Do I have a second?
Second.
First out of Mike, second out of trustee Bonnie. Roll call, please.
Trustee Michaels?
Aye.
Trustee Bonnie?
Aye.
Trustee White?
Aye.
Trustee Lindy? Aye. Trustee Heron?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries 5-0. Up next, I have a resolution authorizing Finance Director Matt Anastasia to serve as a trustee of the Illinois Public Reserves Investment Management Trust. Ma'am?
Just a little background, as the village has its investments sitting with PMA, they have iPrime is what that stands for. And that is their local government investment pool. And what that does is it essentially gives the local governments larger investment opportunity by pooling all their funds together. I was approached in December from the vice president of PMA to potentially be asked to sit on the board of trustees for iPrime. Right now, they manage just under $2 billion. The board doesn't actually manage; they're more setting policy and doing more of the municipality side on trying to get people to come in and setting policy. We don't actually determine where they're going to be investing funds. That's still handled by PMA and iPrime, by the municipal advisors. But what this does is they were looking for somebody as the village's size. Right now, there's 5 trustees. They're looking to expand that to a 6th. Right now, it's the city of O'Fallon, which is down by St. Louis, Joliet Library, Oak Park District, Peoria, and Lake County. So a lot larger communities and organizations, so they're trying to diversify and get into some of those smaller governments, so right around our size. So I was interviewed by the board and accepted upon the acceptance by our board.
Any questions for Matt?
I think it's quite a compliment to Matt.
I would agree. I think that it speaks to your excellence and in management of our finances. I commend you for all that you've done. We're in absolutely great shape because of you, and I think you should be honored. We're honored. I'm always honored when our staff gets to do something fabulous on behalf of their professional career. So thank you for serving on this board.
Make a motion to approve.
Thank you. I have a motion out of trustee.
Second.
Thank you. I have a first out of trustee White, second out of trustee Heron. Roll call, please.
Trustee White?
Aye.
Trustee Heron?
Aye.
Trustee Michaels?
Aye.
Trustee Lindy? Aye. Trustee Bonnie?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries 5-0. Up next, I have a resolution approving the number of liquor licenses for 24-25 calendar year. This is Tracy.
Yes, this is to add cilantro to the list of licenses for the village.
Okay. It's part of the process. We have to create the liquor license within that classification, and that's what this resolution does. Can I get a motion to approve item E, the resolution approving the number of liquor licenses for 2024-2025?
As stated. Second.
First out of trustee Bonnie, second out of trustee Heron. Roll call, please, Tracy.
Trustee Bonnie?
Aye.
Trustee Heron?
Aye.
Trustee Michaels?
Aye.
Trustee White?
Aye.
Trustee Lindy?
Thank you. Motion carries 5-0. Up next, the actual approval, item F, approval of the liquor license for the on-premises liquor license for Cilantro Taco Grill located at 519 Sugar Grove Parkway, Unit F, Sugar Grove. Tracy, I can take this one for you. This is actually the approval of the liquor license at that location. We just created the classification. So can I get a motion to approve item F? Do I have a second?
Second.
And first out of trustee Bonnie, second out of trustee Heron. Roll call, please.
Trustee Bonnie?
Aye.
Trustee Heron?
Aye.
Trustee Michaels?
Aye.
Trustee White?
Aye.
Trustee Lindy?
Thank you. Motion carries 5-0. Up next, public comment. Additionally, on our agenda this evening, we have several discussion items. We have, under item 12A, approving, this is a discussion, so even though it starts with approving the purchase and installation of Village's outdoor emergency siren hardware and software activation system. Item B, amending Title 4, Chapter 6, open burning exception 4-6-3 by adding paragraph F, permitting golf courses to burn under certain conditions. Item C, approving a quote for live scan fingerprint replacement. Item D, zoning ordinance text amendment, civic uses, PUDs. Item E, annexing property, Denny Road Fire Protection District. Item F, special use, preliminary PUD, final PUD Phase 1, preliminary plat of subdivision, final plat of subdivision, zoning deviations, and development agreement for Sugar Grove Fire Protection District on Denny Road. Item G, the PUD for major amendment for special use, preliminary PUD, preliminary plat of subdivision, zoning deviations, and architecture for Brighton Ridge, which is Lennar. Item H, rezoning Brighton Ridge, which is Lennar. Item I, amendment to the annexation agreement for Brighton Ridge, which is Lennar. Item J, development agreement between the Village of Sugar Grove and Cal Atlantic Group Incorporated, which is Brighton Ridge. Item K, fiscal year 25-26 general fund budget workshop number 3. The board will be discussing all of these items tonight. No action will be taken on those items. If you choose to speak under public comment, it will be limited to 3 minutes this evening because we have a larger crowd in the room. The village board will take note of your questions, and we will ensure that we try to bring that to light through the discussion so you can hear discussion about it. So I will start at the top. Marion.
All right, I'll try and do better than I did last week. All right, good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Marion Croft, and I live at 309 Hampton Road. Like many of my neighbors, we love our community, and we want to ensure it remains a safe and welcoming place for all families. However, we have a serious concerns about the impact of the proposed Brighton Ridge development in our neighborhood. We created and distributed a survey to inform residents of the upcoming development. Over 110 Windsor Point residents, representing 87% of homes, which is 35% of them, and counting, have signed a petition to voice their concerns against the current design of Brighton Ridge. They respectfully urge the Village of Sugar Grove to take action to address the critical issues related to traffic safety and infrastructure prior to approving the plan. The proposed development will introduce over 650 additional vehicles into our community with only a single access point to Galena. There will be a significant increase in traffic on Hampton Road and throughout Windsor Point. Residents are especially concerned about the impact on safety, particularly of children, as well as worsening of traffic congestion on Regency and Park. As part of the petition, residents were invited to share their thoughts on the development. Over 50 residents provided written comment, and here's the summary. The majority of respondents expressed strong opposition to the proposed connection between Brighton Ridge and Windsor Point, citing concerns about increased traffic, safety risk, and infrastructure strain. There are 4 key themes from the feedback. 1, opposition to connecting Brighton Ridge to Windsor Point. Residents strongly oppose using Hampton Road or any Windsor Point streets to access points for Brighton Ridge. Many suggest that Brighton Ridge should have its own entrance off of Galena and or Route 56 to prevent Windsor Point from becoming a cut-through. Second theme, traffic and safety concerns. Increased traffic on Windsor Point streets, Hampton, Regency, and Park will exacerbate existing issues with speeding, reckless driving, and accidents. Safety risks for children are also a major concern, particularly around school bus stops, the park, and residential streets where kids play. Some propose additional stop signs to mitigate risk in connection if the connection moves forward. The third topic, infrastructure and road capacity issue. Windsor Point roads, especially Hampton roads, were not designed to handle the additional traffic from a new subdivision. Residents fear that the construction will add vehicle flow and will damage the newly resurfaced roads. Concerns about increased delivery trucks and road maintenance costs were also brought up. The fourth theme, requests for alternative solutions. Many request that the developer reconfigure the subdivision designed to include multiple entry and exit points that do not funnel traffic through Windsor Point. A few residents raise concern about property value impact and want reassurance that the new homes will align with the existing community standards. In conclusion, we support responsible land development. However, the current plan does not sufficiently address the traffic and safety challenges it will create. We respectfully ask the board to collaborate with Leonard to reassess the development plan. The community has expressed overwhelmingly opposition to connecting Brighton Ridge to Windsor Point, citing serious concerns about traffic safety and infrastructure. One more sentence.
Go ahead.
Residents strongly urge the village and developers to consider alternate access points that will preserve the safety and integrity of their neighborhood.
Thank you, Marion.
I do have copies of the survey if any of the board would like to have a copy of it.
I will. We gotta make that chime stop, so give us 1 second.
I tried to go as fast as I could. You want to do that?
That's fine, that's true. Thank you. Yeah, yep.
Just
close the whole
pages, but they're stapled together. I'm sorry, I tried to
You're
do
fine,
that
you're
as fast as I could.
We're gonna pause for a quick second until we can make that annoying noise. It says clock on the corner. Dismiss, is it working? It's not working. Welcome to the village of Chicago. Oh, I thought it stopped there for a second again.
Shut the sound off.
Yeah, we do that.
We're gonna mute it. Can you just do it without a visual? I don't know if you can do that now, which is the clock, and just mute it, and we'll watch the clock. Okay. Thank you, Jeremy. You have the floor.
Good evening. My name is Jeremy Crockett. I live at 309 Hampton Road. I'm an engineer by profession, and in my field, safety is always a primary consideration in any design. Looking at the current plan for Brighton Ridge, it is clear that the safety needs of Windsor Point residents were not adequately factored into the initial design. The good news is there's still time to make adjustments to meet those needs. There have been statements suggesting that narrower streets naturally slow traffic. While I understand the principle, it's not always accurate. Driver behavior depends on various factors. A good example in our area is Troon Drive in Lakewood Creek, located in Montgomery near McDowell Elementary, which is on the other side of Route 30. Troon is a narrow street similar to Hampton, and it connects two subdivisions, Lakewood Creek and Lakewood Creek West. Residents there constantly struggle with reckless and speeding drivers, so narrower streets do not always naturally slow down traffic. This is exactly the kind of issue we're trying to prevent in Windsor Point. What can be done to minimize or eliminate the issue from occurring in Sugar Grove is our question. When Windsor Point was originally developed, Route 47 and the surrounding area looked very different. There was no Jewel, Culver's, Aldi, McDonald's, Ace Hardware, Dunkin' Donuts, Starbucks, or Walgreens, to name a few. Traffic demand was much lower, and while connecting Hampton Road may have made sense 20 years ago, that doesn't mean it's the right solution today. The landscape has changed, and we need to reassess both the safety impact on Windsor Point and the financial impact on the village. I understand that using the existing infrastructure that is Hampton Road is a cost-saving measure, but cost should never trump safety and common sense. I'd also like to ask, does anyone have access to the original plans for Windsor Point and the proposed Hampton Road connection? My understanding from what the realtor told us when we bought was that it was for future expansion of Windsor Point, not a completely new subdivision, with its own HOA and no ties to Windsor Point. Perhaps knowing the original intent versus today's reality would be a valuable step in making an informed decision. So the question before us today is, will the board take action to ensure the best outcome, not just for the village, but also for the residents of Windsor Point? Thank you.
Thank you. Up next, I have Mark. You're going to pass? Okay. Would anyone else like to make a public comment at this time? Again, we're discussing several items on our agenda, but anything that you can think of that you would like to bring your address to the board. Lewis, you have the floor. 3 minutes.
Thank you. Different hat now. I'm addressing you as the HOA president for Windsor Point. I'm not going to repeat any of the things you heard from our residents about concerns, but I will say that I have to thank Chief. He shared with me some of the results of some of the traffic study that's been going on. I look forward to hearing that. I also wanted to thank Brad. We had a water main breakage in our subdivision, and these folks were out there early, and they got it done quickly and cleanly. So thank you very much for helping us out. And that's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for those comments. Any additional public comments at this time? Going once? Going twice? 3 times. I will close item 11, public comment. Up next, first discussion item, approving the purchase of the installation of the village's outdoor emergency siren hardware and software activation system. think everybody is aware that our sirens just went off. They were manually set off by the police department. So, Chief, take it away.
Thank you. And this is just a follow-up. We started discussing it during my staff discussion at the last meeting that the village, as well as during budget, the village's emergency warning siren system has been migrated over to us at the police department, where it was a shared responsibility, where an IGA was set up back in 1992, I believe, with the city of Aurora being the primary activation. They're no longer looking to activate anyone else's emergency siren other than their own. So we've been taking steps and looking at different avenues to make sure that we're prepared and ready to move forward. Some of the items that we saw right now is we're manually activating sirens throughout the days and evenings. And it officially took place again on Friday. And at the staff meeting, I told you we did the actual testing on Monday, which was always handled by the city of Aurora, of course, the weekly testing, or the monthly testing, I'm sorry. So for clarification purposes, we're looking to automate our system. So when the National Weather Service pushes out a code to phone services, to satellites, they push out an area that's impacted, that's designated geographically, that is affected in an area. And what we're looking for is specifically tornado warnings versus a watch. A warning means there's an actual sighting or there was rotation spotted on radar. So when multiple codes go out by the National Weather Service, what we're asking the board to do is we're going to have an internal system here with the police department. A computer system is going to keep going out, constantly looking for that code. And if it matches the village of Sugar Grove, any of our coordinates, the tornado warning sirens will automatically activate as long as the code is set by the National Weather Service. We're still able to activate the emergency warning sirens as independently of them. It's slower, doesn't go off. In addition, we also can activate the emergency warning sirens for straight line winds. We're seeing roofs being torn off. They're not tornadoes. We're seeing damage that's occurring in the community. And it's basically just to alert everyone that's outside to get inside. So we have our vendor, Fulton Technology, that's proposed this. We're looking to have a redundancy built in. We're looking at the internet as well as a satellite system. So. And then, as a reminder, I let you know that with the police department potentially moving onto this building, we're going to put it on a rolling cart in Public Works because they don't have space in their IT closet. But we're going to temporarily relocate our system that's currently here in this building over to that location and eventually bring it back. So, be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Chief. Any questions?
You said quicker. How much, that's what stood out to me, that it's a lot quicker. How much quicker would that be? I think every second counts, but I'm just curious how.
You mean in,
how long does
I
it
don't know
take?
if there's any latency. I couldn't tell you that because I mean the internet is every 30 seconds it's going out to look for that code, but the satellite feed is instantaneously. But then it has to queue up, it has to decipher all the codes that the National Weather Service pushes out, because if it puts a large coordinates in place, I'm sure AI and everything comes into play what the software does to try to decipher and look specifically for our coordinates. And then it should activate. I don't know the time frame.
Chief, any other municipalities around here that currently have this?
No, everyone's still manually activating, or they have weather spotters out there. And our manpower is, and as I put it in there, if there's a couple officers that are on the street, they're already tied up on an incident. And like Friday night, I spent 6 hours watching radar, and if I'm on vacation or can't get to it, we need to make sure that specifically a tornado warning is going to get activated, but I'm not aware of anyone around us right now. So I talked to the city of Aurora, their emergency manager, and she was curious about this. So.
Yeah, I would like to have you reach out, if possible, to some municipality, even if it's not local, that actually already has this system, and just verify that it's what they're selling and that we're getting what we're trying to get. Make sure there's no other bugs in the system and stuff like that. So even if it's not a local, I would really like to see you reach out and grab some information
Sure.
and bring that back.
Okay.
Thoughts in general on the system over the annual?
Just overall, our attention to our warning system, I think, is great. We had a neighboring community during that last storm they're reporting that some of their sirens didn't go off. I know that we've discussed quite a bit about our emergency warning system over the last few years, and I just really do appreciate all the attention to detail, Chief, that you have on that.
Thank you. And I just want to address, I know it's off topic a little bit, but just the quality of the sound that emergency warning sirens push out there is no volume control on any of the sirens. It's full throttle. There's no turning it down, no turning it up, but you have, and I'm not a sound expert, but you're going to have a lot of variables that would come into play. Friday night storm, that sirens were activated for certain residents a lot louder than they typically hear, but it's also based on the winds. At nighttime it's less quiet, the ambient noise, the stuff that's happening, the traffic. There's no leaves currently on the trees, and it just keeps going on. But I just wanted to let you know there's some comments out there on social media that said we turn up the volume. That's incorrect. There's no volume control. It's all.
Thank you for addressing that.
Yeah, I actually didn't hear it as loud as I usually do, and I'm not that far from one, so
it's the wind.
It's the
way the wind is southwest.
Yeah.
Well, it just, what our community has dealt with in the last even 12 months with 3 tornadoes last year, and obviously the severe storm coming through, the weather patterns are changing. I think it's obviously a benefit to having it automated versus leaving it up to our staff that's monitoring, the weather themselves and putting it on their shoulders that it would be safe and sorry, and keeping up with technology. And I think this is a big advancement for our village. So, just want to put that out there.
Yeah, I think it's very important. I agree with Trustee Bonnie, though. Get a couple reviews.
Sure.
Just make sure we know.
Okay.
Sounds like a little bit of homework before we bring it back, but we'll bring it back next meeting, and hopefully you'll have some answers for that.
Sounds great.
Thanks, Chief. Up next, the open burning. So item B, amending Title 4, Chapter 6 of the open burning ordinance. Chief.
Thank you. So as an oversight, when we instituted the open burning, no burning of leaves and debris larger than certain parameters, were basically for residential areas. We didn't think about golf courses, and the golf courses asked us, Bush Creek has asked us for the board to reconsider that an option allowing them to burn. There are exceptions already built into our code of ordinances that burning is permitted A through E, I believe, and this will become F, and that's part of the board report. But golf courses typically, if they get hit like a storm, or if they get aging trees, they'll come down, the limbs will come down, and they will have a lot more than a resident would, but it's a cost, and they're asking for consideration by the board to have it as an exception. And then if the board is okay with that, the exception would be a variable that both the fire chief and the police chief would be overseeing what parameters, when they can burn, and observation, and making sure that other safety measures are in place. They're looking for us to see if we can change the ordinance to allow them to burn on their grounds of their own down material.
Thank you. Discussion.
Do we have exceptions for the park district or even the village if there's a fence line that the village wants to?
Yeah, so the village has a carved out exception already for us, but the park district does not.
Might want to ask them, at this time they might not have that large of a park, but maybe in the future they might.
Okay.
think the proximity to the golf course is residential. Makes it pretty much in the open. Considered prevailing winds, it's going to take it over forest preserve. Good.
Yeah. Well, I'm concerned if it, goes the other way, because houses are around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's why they get to pick the circumstances.
Yeah, we're looking
Yeah.
to issue, if the board's okay, we're gonna issue a daily permit versus a blanket
Okay,
permit
so
that
it
you
would be a
can't burn for
daily
the
permit.
season.
Okay.
We're gonna give you a day, if you have anything, they're gonna approach us, and then both Brendan and I will sign a local permit to them allowing to burn for the day, but also with restrictions in place, and those restrictions might
Okay.
change based on the weather, or the different times of the year, or we found out it did interfere, or it did drift too far over into a residential area, we gotta either control it to a smaller burn, have more multiple burns, versus they typically in the past have had a larger fire, which we're not envisioning to see that happen.
Okay, so a daily permit.
And they're-
With your guidance on.
And there's a zone, I believe, agriculture,
Yeah.
so it's not a
Yeah.
residential lot, so.
Thank you, Chief. Any other discussion?
Okay, the minutes sound good.
Okay. We'll have you bring that back, Chief, for next agenda. Bring it to consent if anyone on the board wants to pull it at that time, they can. Okay, up next, we have the approving for a quote of the live scan fingerprint replacement, Chief.
Thank you. Our current live scan device is from 2014. It's served us well. It's beyond its maintenance, our annual maintenance, SSMA. We stretch it as far as we can. Our plate device, which is what we roll live scan, we roll the palm prints and the fingerprints over, has served us well. So we got many more years out of it. However, we know it's no longer supported, and it hasn't been supported for over 4 years. So, but we take care of our equipment here, but it's time now that technology's changed, that we have to upgrade. So I'm looking to see if we can move forward with purchasing the live scan. In the past, all Tri-City records agencies, that was Geneva, Batavia, St. Charles, and Sugar Grove, all purchased the current cross-match system back in 2014 to get the best price possible. Geneva has already led the effort and went out and got a good price through the vendor that's being suggested. They're a local vendor, and I know since the original Tri-City Records, Elburn has joined that, and they're also looking at a live scan machine. So they're holding a price available for the 4 agencies, and it's up to each agency to decide if that's what they want to do to move forward. It will allow us also to tie into our records management system, so we're not duplicating the entry that the officers are putting into the live scan. All the demographics and arrest charges will then flow potentially into our new world system. There's a cost to integrate the two, but our big cost is going to be on the replacement of the live scan. Happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Chief.
How does this integrate with that new software that we recently approved?
I'm sorry, Trustee.
I'm sorry, how does this integrate with the new software we recently approved that gives you the timestamp?
Yes,
and all
so
that?
so this is a totally different system. So the one that you approved a couple months ago is our Exxon body-worn camera system. It's pulling across from our dispatch center, pulling in the call information.
No, I think I'm thinking of something else.
Okay.
It's where you're tagging each record so that so the state's attorney still can get it. And that's a body-worn camera stuff?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I thought it was more than that.
Yeah, our body-worn camera and our fleet cameras, the video footage inside the squad cars is auto-tagging.
Any other discussion?
Yeah, Chief, so with the proposal of leaving this building, What's your plans with the live scan machine?
It's portable. It doesn't have to be recertified by the state. It has to initially be recertified by the state as long as we're the owner, so we can temporarily take it with us and still process anyone that has to be fingerprinted.
Are we planning on having a temporary booking where you're maybe going, or are we going to be utilizing other jails? My question is, I don't want to spend the money on this if it's going to sit and be covered up for the time that we're building the build out. If we're using other jails to book our offenders in, if we're using their live scans there when they're booking them. So just do we have a plan yet?
We do. So most of our intake will be brought in here and processed, and they're cited and released under the new law unless it's a felony or they have to be held because of a domestic or a warrant. So we're still going to process everybody here or wherever we are, because we plan on still processing 90+% of all our guests. The ones that are unruly, we're going to take to another facility in a controlled environment and have a process there. But we're working on we have 2 options that we're already reached out to, and they both said yes. We just haven't formalized it yet.
All right, so when you said here, you don't mean here because no one's going to be here at this location.
Correct.
So you'll make an arrest for a Class A or let's just say a felony.
Mm-hmm.
We're not going to detain them based upon the new laws. We're going to release them, but they're coming in for print. You're actually going to bring the offenders into the temporary location.
Yes.
So you'll have like a temporary booking.
Correct.
Spotlight.
Same for breathalyzer, same for fingerprintings, yes. We're going to try to keep our officers in town instead of having to leave town.
Excellent. Okay, thank you very much.
Any other questions? Okay, hearing none, Chief, I'll have to bring that one back for consent agenda as well.
Okay, thank you.
The D&E, zoning ordinance text amendment for civic uses and PUDs.
So previously the board discussed the idea of a text amendment that would address civic uses. Currently our code does not address a civic use PUD. We have residential, we have industrial, but we do not address if the use is solely civic uses. We got direction after the board's discussion of the idea to move forward with the proposed text amendment. We took it to the Planning Commission, they held the required public hearing, and there was no objectors present at that time. And the Planning Commission recommended that the village board approve the proposed text amendment. This text amendment will address civic use PUDs and allow for deviations to be made to the plans through the proposed text amendment and the language written in it. This will also address the fire department's application for their civic use PUD.
Thank you, Jenny. Discussion. Page 50, civic uses were added. Complete red line. Any concerns? Nope, hearing none. Okay, Danny, if you can bring that back for consent agenda. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Next item, I have, where am I? Annexing property for Denny Road Fire Protection District.
So as I mentioned earlier during the public hearing, the Fire Protection District has property on Denny Road, and we have received a petition from them to annex their property into the village. This is part of their petition to also move forward with building a training facility. This will be the first steps in moving forward with that project.
Okay. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none. I'll have you bring that back under consent. Okay, 1 second. Let me just mark my items. Sorry. Okay. Up next, we've got all of these items, which I assume will be broken out. We'll see how discussion goes, but they're all going to be broken out as individual approvals. But we're lumping them together in one discussion. So under item F, you see all the different items that are need to be approved, the preliminary preliminary plat, final plat, zoning deviations, development agreement for the fire protection district. So go ahead, Dan. Danny, thank you.
We have received a petition from the Fire Protection District requesting approval of a special use for a preliminary PUD, a final PUD for Phase 1, a preliminary plat of subdivision, a final plat of subdivision, zoning deviations, and a development agreement. They have owned property on Denny Road for several years and are wishing to construct a training facility on the property. The project is proposed to be developed in 4 phases. All 4 phases are outlined in the development agreement. Phase 1 includes a burn tower, a detention basin, and would also include subdividing the property into 4 new lots that coincide with the 4 phases. Also constructed during Phase 1 would be an access road to the burn tower and a new water line to the wet hydrant that would be placed near the tower. The burn tower would be constructed of precast panels, similar to it'd be basically the same design that they proposed when they were trying to put it across the street. And that phase would begin in 2025. Phase 2 is projected to begin in 2027. This phase includes construction of a training facility and a parking lot. Phase 3 includes construction of a heavy-duty asphalt pad for apparatus training. And then Phase 4 includes the construction of the new fire station. Now, there are timing called out in the proposal, however, none of these timings are solid because it'll depend on how the fire department develops. They also will be partnering with Waubonsee Community College and hosting classes in their training facilities for their fire program. So Waubonsee will be utilizing these facilities as well. There are a number of requested deviations that are outlined in your board report that they're requesting. Most of them apply to Phase 1 and delaying some of the requirements to later phases. The required public hearing was held and the Plan Commission was held with the Plan Commission, and they unanimously voted that the village board approve the proposal with the fire department. And Chief Moran is here, and he can talk about the project a little bit further if you would like.
Quick question, were there any comments from the public?
We had no public present whatsoever
Okay.
during that meeting.
Any questions specifically to Chief Moran? We can bring him up if you'd like. Chief, why don't you give us a quick overview? I know it's been the last time you were here with the training tower. It was proposed across the street.
So this is a little bit different than what we proposed for across the street. The one before was only 2 stories. This is going to be 3 stories. This is a requirement for our training for ISO requirements, and the ISO evaluation gives us more points for a 3-story building. Being that it's in a different location, further closer to 88, we figured that wouldn't be such an issue there. We do have a partnership with Waubonsee Community College. They are looking to bring their entire fire science program to our location, which would need more people in town to better use the community. We've been working on this for approximately a year now with staff. Back and forth, a lot of different suggestions, planning with our architects, future uses. That's why all 4 phases are in there. Obviously, Phase 2 and Phase 3 with the partnership with Waubonsee would probably be accelerated. So as Danny talked about, the timeline will be a little bit different. Phase 4, the fire station, this was the property that we owned since 2008, and we were shovel ready in 2008. We all know what happened then with the economy and the housing crisis, so everything stopped there. So this has been an ongoing site plan for us to move it out there. It'll be based on development and growth of the community and a call volume in that area, and that'll be the determining factor when we actually move it out there. One thing that we've been going back and forth on, and one of the suggestions by the Planning Commission, was to have a tree preservation plan. Prior to any work out there, we're asking for the variance on that to be limited to the south end of the property, which is the Denny Road frontage. That's really the only tree line that we're going to touch and think about taking down any trees, and that's going to be purely for access to the site and future use of the training facility and the fire station. So if we can get the variance to do the tree preservation plan just to the south end, that'll be a significant cost savings to us. We got a quote for the entire site, and I don't really feel that that's a good use of our money to survey every tree, and we're not gonna touch most of them anyway. So the whole west end of our property is tree lined, and we don't intend to take anything down other than clean up the dead trees and stuff like that. So, I'm happy to answer any questions on the whole plan, on the training facility itself. A lot of work's gone into it, both by my staff and your staff, to make sure we've got a good product to present to you guys.
Thank you, Chief. Questions?
The Chief, I know you guys had put in here, I'm trying to find it, but amount of burns a year or per quarter, was that in here on the page?
We don't have a number set. We did talk to all of our neighbors that are all in support of us having this facility. We let them know that anytime we have a planned burn, because this is not a, hey, we're gonna go out burn tomorrow, we have to hire back staffing, stokers, safety officers. There's a lot that goes to the plan to actually do a live fire in it. So we'll notify all of our neighbors that we'll be doing live fire on set days and go from there. So I can't tell you it's a set number of, it's based on our training needs and the classes that we run.
Or will you be renting this facility out to other fire departments?
No, any fire department that trains out there will train with us. Waubonsee Community College is the only other partner to be out there.
Right.
And we've already told them that we'll be on site for any live fire training. One of the designs of this training facility is 90% of the time we'll be using theatrical smoke. It's already pre-piped. That white pipe that you see on the outside of the design is set up for a fog machine to be able to pipe in theatrical smoke.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions or discussion?
Is there any requirement here that you connect to sewer when it's available?
What's that?
Is there any requirement to connect to sewer when it's available?
I don't believe it's called out, but we could add that, we did that with all the other homes along.
That was my thought too.
Yeah, I mean, put in sewer, we'll connect to it, but as of now, we're planning for septic fields. I know our neighbors are both on septics. Not really concerned about that, but if there was, that's the other reason why there's a deviation in there for the looping of the hydrant system, is because the hydrant we're going to tap into is currently a dead-end hydrant. So it's just an extension of what we're already doing. If a development came through and there was water all the way down, then obviously we'd have a poor choice anyways. But there's just no place to connect it with.
I just know we've got language in our other annexation agreements, at least the approvals, for the houses along Denny there, that if it becomes available, that they can tap in, or you should add that to it.
The hydrants won't be looped?
There's nowhere to loop it to at this time.
Yeah.
It's the dead end.
It's a dead end right there.
The main
across
house,
the
dead
street.
end's right there, basically where they started.
Will an aerator be in the pond so it doesn't develop mosquitoes?
Yeah, I believe there's something called out in the engineer's report, some kind of an aerator in there.
I know, brought that issue up.
Yeah. The other part of that pond is that's gonna be used for water rescue, ice rescue, and then we also have a dry hydrant going into it, so there should be plenty of vegetation in that water.
Yeah, the aerator could be shut off in the wintertime, but, you know, during the summer, it should be running to prevent that. And then, I see call for spoils berm. It'd be nice to have, the spoils taken off, just so you don't get a lot of weeds growing up.
One of our plans with those spoils and those berms is to actually berm along the natural gas pipeline from where the barrier between the south end.
Okay, it's not showing that, but not.
This is all preliminary plans with that.
That's fine, that's fine.
Just finding a place to put it so we don't have to pay to truck it off.
And then, is there any additional landscaping that's needed on the north end of the property?
North end's 88, there's already.
Yeah, okay, I should say the northeast.
We've talked to one of our neighbors about the east end. Obviously, that's the deviation requested in phase one. There'd be no extra landscaping added, but in phase two, we would take care of that.
Should we put a sunset clause in there? Because, you know, there's, with those burn towers there, and that can be the most aesthetically pleasing.
The plan is to keep it that way, keep it aesthetically pleasing.
But there's no landscaping along that east boundary line, so is it?
I think the village board is cautiously optimistic that you will move on to phase 2, but
Yes.
covering themselves in case that could be 15 years from now.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think we're maybe within a year or less. We had a meeting with them on.
It's just that it shouldn't be a problem to add that language.
Yeah.
And what would you be comfortable, board, would you be comfortable for time on that, if there's a sunset clause on there?
3 years.
3 years? Chief, is that fine with
Yeah,
you?
we did 3 years.
Okay.
Did I ask a question?
No, sir, I'm sorry. Okay. Additional items.
Any need for bike trail or anything like that along Denny? It's,
We're the end of the village.
yeah.
There's nothing, no trail east or west of us.
You're not across the street from the entrance there.
No, we're down west.
It's one of those items that it is a lot that I think the Reinhardt property did not have dedicated. We looked at this a couple of years ago. They didn't have dedicated bike trail or sidewalk. And obviously your neighbors to the east do not have that requirement. They're already there and developed. So it would be a village expense long-term to put in a bike trail for all those properties. And I think that when we looked at it last time, because the bike trails need to be evaluated again, there's so many large trees on that side, and it's also set down, you know, right off the road. So it's a challenge, it's an expense that I think in previous properties, not the Reiners, but when we looked at the Kinney's property in particular, the village board gave them a time certain to have development to connect them, and then waived their cost with doing a sidewalk or bike trail in front of their house after 2 years' time. So you would be connecting, they wouldn't be connecting to anything other than putting the financial obligation on the fire protection district. Can I talk about the orange color?
We will Wabansie Maroon.
Wabansie Maroon,
Yep.
okay.
Yeah, orange is just we're out of toner.
Oh. Perfect. Are you gonna dual brand this? Or no, is it just your logo, fire protection?
No, we're in discussion with them on how we want to play that out, but yeah. It'll be well known that it's both ours and theirs.
Okay. And, you know, I think it goes a long way. You talk to all the neighbors in the vicinity, and you would to them directly and have support, obviously, because they're not here. Oh, okay. Okay. Any other questions or discussion? Okay. I'm going to ask that we bring this back then for our next village board meeting. I'm going to just have them bring it back under, well, I'm going to put it under consent because I'm not hearing anything here.
No, I
Bring it under
think we want
general?
to see the language with 3 years.
Okay, that's fine.
I'd like some language about the trees.
In 3 years' time.
Well, and some, that they're not going to take down additional trees.
Okay.
Since that was communicated.
Okay, very good. Under general business then. Do
You're
you-
talking about on the west end, right?
Yeah.
Well, and what does the ordinance say with regard to what your replacement has to be? Anybody have it off the top of their head when you remove a tree? What's the replacement?
If it's 6 inches or greater, it has to be replaced by 3-inch caliper or less. Or more.
Up to 3 trees, up to 20 inches. Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
There was some debate on that too, wasn't there, as far as the PUD language versus.
Not with the tree preservation, it was the screening.
We'll do whatever we need to do as far as.
Yeah.
Signage, I know you talked about phase
Phase
2 with
two.
signage.
Yep.
Do we also want to put a sunset clause on that? I think people are going to say, you know, maybe they're going to know exactly what's back there, but I think when you have and brand it with a sign, if there's a sunset on there, if you think that training tower is going to come, the training facility rather is going to come in 3 years' time,
Yep.
are you good with a sunset clause on signage?
That's fine.
Okay. Anything else?
Yep.
General business next meeting, April 15th. Thank you, Chief. Okay. Get that tonight. Okay, up next, that. Okay. I have the PUD, major amendment, special use preliminary PUD, preliminary plat of subdivision, zoning deviations, and architecture for Brighton Ridge. So, Danny.
In October of 2024, Lennar presented a concept plan for a development for property located at Galena and Route 56. This was very well received by both the Planning Commission and the Village Board. Since then, the village has received an application from Lennar for a PUD major amendment to revoke an underlying PUD, a special use for a new PUD with deviations, a preliminary plat of subdivision, and architecture approval for the property. The plans include 174 single-family detached homes, 148 townhomes, a 1.1 acre park, a 0.7 acre tot lot, and a multi-use path. Staff has also looked closer at the traffic concerns that were raised at the last meeting by the residents of Windsor West, or Windsor Point. And we have come up with the idea to install 3 additional stop signs, which I will let Chief Rollins speak on in greater detail. The required public hearing was held with the Planning Commission, and they recommended that the village board approve the petition for the Lennar development. The applicants are here, and they are going to give a presentation on their proposal.
Thank you, Danny. Is Vince going to lead off for us? Perfect. Just introduce yourself for the board.
Perfect. Good evening. I'm Vince Rosanova. I'm with the law firm of Rosanova and Whitaker, and we're here tonight on behalf of the petitioner, which is Lennar Homes. Also with me and happy to answer any questions are Brandon Raymond, Kara Brown with Lennar, Zach Luke, who's our landscape architect site designer with Gary R. Weber and Associates. We also have Michael Worthman, our traffic engineer with KLOA. And last but not least, Luke Zanoni, our civil engineer with Magna Consultants in the back. I'd like to first start out by complimenting Scott, Brian, Danny, and Michael, as well as Bravo for their professionalism throughout this process. This has definitely been a complicated property, so their efforts have been greatly appreciated. Since we were last before you, all the way back in October, about 6 months ago, we spent a lot of time not only addressing the comments that we've heard at the concept level, also enhancing the plans, also meeting with our neighbors, working with the Sugar Grove Park District, Kane County Forest Preserve District, Illinois Department of Transportation, ComEd, Fox Metro, and so on, just to make sure that we were as responsive as we possibly could be. Certainly, a lot of positive progress was made over the last 6 months, which we're excited to share with you this evening. Before I do that, I'll just give some additional background on Lennar. Lennar's been building homes since 1954, certainly evidencing 70 years of staying power. They're now one of the nation's largest and most respected home builders, very active in the Chicagoland market. They have 39 active communities throughout Chicagoland, Indiana, as well as Wisconsin. In Chicago alone last year, they built 1,750 homes. More important than the number of homes that they're building, they pride themselves on reputation, customer satisfaction, and treating the customer right. And they always look to simplify the home building process for the customer, which is evidenced by both their in-house mortgage company as well as their in-house title company. This next slide is just a brief sampling of some of the communities that Lennar is currently building in. Certainly very excited about these communities, but even equally as important as the relationships that Lennar builds with each municipality that it builds subdivisions in. It's very common for after the first subdivision for them to be invited back for a second, third, fourth subdivision. All of these examples are communities which they've worked in multiple times, and we hope that will be no different for the Sugar Grove community. Now looking at the subject property here, you can see it consists of about 141 acres located at the northwest quadrant of Galena Boulevard and Route 56. It's vacant, other than a small homestead parcel adjacent to Galena. There's a Fox Metro lift station, as well as a mature grove of trees along the north property line, which is very important, which I'll get in here to shortly, but which will be ultimately preserved as part of this project. By way of additional history, some, if not most of you, may recall that this property was originally annexed to the village back in 2006. At that time, it was actually zoned as a mixed-use development, calling for both residential and commercial development. At that time, for one reason or another, probably most likely market conditions in 2007, Pulte ultimately had to walk away. The end result is we have a property that sits vacant, underperforming, contributing essentially nothing to the Sugar Grove community, despite being annexed about 19 at this point years ago. Upon evaluating the property, Lennar believes that eliminating the commercial component that was formally approved is the best alternative. First, this is going to go a long way to preserve the residential character of the area, and also eliminating that commercial component from this property eliminates competition for the very important commercial node located at 47 in Galena. Certainly bringing in these additional residents, these rooftops, these folks will help support that corridor, create more vibrancy, more assurances that it'll be stable into the future, as well as bring in additional folks for future development. And then just looking more at the context of the surrounding area, which was very important to understand in the site design process. You look to the west, beautiful subdivision, Windsor Point, 265 single-family homes, approximately 160 townhomes, which is very consistent and complementary to what you'll see this evening with Lennar, and that they're also proposing an exclusively residential development consisting of only single-family homes and townhomes. To the north, Bliss Creek Golf Course, Pressberry, iconic subdivision, the Bliss Creek Forest Preserve owned by the Kane County Forest Preserve. To the south, you have vacant land, and then to the southeast, Settlers Ridge, Ingham Park, very nice residential communities as well. So in addition to consistency with what we're proposing with the surrounding area, the proposal is also directly in line with the comprehensive plan, which was updated as recently as 2023, a little more than a year ago. Depicts the property as residential, which is certainly the case, but also the context of the comprehensive plan were directly in alignment with that as well. Perhaps the prevailing theme was to provide a variety of housing options to meet the needs of residents at all ages. You'll see that with the optionality that we provide with the site plan. Also providing quality recreational opportunities. You'll see that as well. Protection of environmentally sensitive areas, as well as locating new residential adjacent to existing residential, which would be the Brighton Ridge proposal adjacent to the Windsor Point, which is the optimal situation. So now moving into the site plan, as you can see, we envision a residential community which consists of both single-family homes located on the western and central portion of the property that then transitions into townhomes towards the central and eastern portion of the property. This variation of housing opportunity will cast the widest net, appeal to the most possible people, not only those looking to stay in the Sugar Grove community, but in a home that better suits their current needs, but also very appealing to those looking to move into a well-respected suburb with excellent schools. With regard to the single family, there'll actually be 174 home sites, and there'll actually be two different varieties of single family. You're going to have the larger lots, which will accommodate the larger homes, which are the medallion homes. If you look along the western portion of the property in the darker orange, we've oriented these larger lots to be complementary to Windsor Point, respect their very nice community. They're oriented along the property line. These lots will generally be 66-foot wide typical by about 127 feet deep, which has an average lot size of just over 9,300 square feet, which is a big lot per today's standards. Moving center of the property, you see the Horizon series, which are typically 56 foot wide by 126 feet deep, which yields an average lot size of about 8,200. You'll also notice along the western property line, we've only located 9 lots along that shared property line, in addition to our open space area, beautiful natural wet bottom basin detention facility with a fountain to have a very nice aesthetic appeal and be complementary to Windsor Point. I'd also point out that traditionally when you have single-family detached homes adjacent to single-family detached homes, the rear yard condition is those homes are typically 60 feet apart. Both homes will have a 30-foot rear yard setback. What we're able to do here is we incorporated an additional 40-foot buffer yard, which will be maintained by the homeowners association, so we can make sure that it's uniformly maintained for a very nice aesthetic condition long into the future. The end result then is a typical minimum distance between our homes and Windsor Point. Rear yard to rear yard is about 100 feet, which is a very nice design feature as well. Other site plan enhancements since we were here last. One of the best things, one of the things that I was most excited to be here tonight to say is the entire 42-acre portion on the north side of the property, northeast side of the property, is now going to be dedicated to the King County Forest Preserve District, which is exactly the agency that should be responsible to own and maintain this property so generations long into the future could enjoy it. It's a very important environmentally sensitive area. And that's going to be a very nice natural habitat to line up to what the Forest Preserve already owns for many years. At the concept level, we had productive conversations about buffering. We talked about the buffering along the west property line. We know that there's going to be a huge buffer along the north property line with the dedication to the Forest Preserve. Galena Boulevard is also very important, where we have a very nice buffer as well. If you look at this profile between the back of the pavement section to our nearest townhomes, 165 feet. So you have the Galena Boulevard cross section, then you have 60 feet of right-of-way. Then we're incorporating in an additional 50-foot buffer, and then from there, after the buffer, you have 55 feet to our nearest townhome. In addition, there was discussion about creating a berm and landscaping, very much to mirror what looks beautiful in front of Windsor. So there'll also be berming and landscaping along Galena to give that very nice aesthetic look. Now on the eastern portion of the property, when you're coming down on the Route 56 exit ramp, we had a lot of discussion as well because this is one of the gateways into the community, very important. So what you see here is the extensive landscaping. You see the naturalized retention basin, which is very good for aesthetics, but also for water quality. We've incorporated a fountain for a very attractive look. And then our nearest building is about 288 feet from the back of the pavement section. So typically you see the R3 setback requirement of 30 feet. Here we're almost 200 or 300 feet of football field, so well in excess of that required setback for the nicest possible view corridor. Now perhaps the best aspect of this is if you look at the topography on the engineering plan, that berming that we're putting in the back of that exit ramp is about 6 feet higher than the roadway, and that will have landscaping on it as well. So then ultimately, not only are we creating that nice view corridor for Brighton, but we're creating a buffer for Brighton as well as a buffer for Windsor, which we think will be a very nice aspect. There was also a lot of productive conversation at the concept level about parks. We're loving the way that this is unfolding. There was a little bit of consternation about having one park. So at this point, we now have 2 parks. They'll both be very well improved. Not only do you see the passive recreation, the turf areas to get out and kick the ball with the kids, there's also active recreation with the play structures, shelters, interconnecting paths, landscaping. There's the one park at the northwest corner, one park at the northeast corner. The goal is to have the Sugar Grove Park District to accept both parks as public, so they not only benefit Brighton Ridge, they also benefit Windsor and everybody that's a member of the Park District. We're very excited about this. The conversations with the Park District have been excellent. We think ultimately they'll accept both parks. If they accept one, then the other will be HOA, but either way, there's going to be 2 parks. We also like to do the improvements ourselves to make sure they're programmed in conjunction with the park district, but also to make sure that they're conveyed early on in the process and they're available when folks want to use the parks. Here's just a listing of some of those improvements which we're discussing, which will provide for very nice amenities. Pedestrian connectivity is also very good in this community. Everything in orange delineates the sidewalks, which will be on both sides of the street, every street connecting. And then also very important is that pedestrian connectivity to Windsor, so these kids could get over here and use these parks safely, and also so adults could get out and have additional room to walk. Virgil Gilman, enough compliments can't be given to the village, the Park District, and the Forest Preserve for bringing this vision forward. This is truly an exceptional amenity. In red is the area of an asphalt path, which Lennar is going to construct, and then also then dedicate that to the Park District for maintenance, so that's open to the public, and then that will ultimately connect to the Virgil Gilman, which is a very unique opportunity, as you're all very well aware, 11.3 contiguous miles to get out for recreation. So as far as open space area, buffering, park sites, preservation of environmentally sensitive areas, this site plan is really second to none. With regard to landscaping, Gary Weber, our landscape architect, has done a wonderful job. We certainly talked about the buffers. One other aspect that came up, a concept which was exceptional feedback, is between the townhomes and the single family. The thought came out, why don't you put some additional buffering in there to delineate, provide separation between those 2 uses. We created an outlot which is going to be maintained by the Homeowners Association. That'll be very nicely landscaped, so we're going to have that distinction as well. Certainly monument signage, give a sense of arrival, sense of community is very important. There's going to be 2 monument signs, one at the entrance, one at the exit. This gives you an idea of the quality that we're anticipating with the stone, landscaping, very complimentary. Windsor has one of the finest monument signs you could possibly see, and I think that this will be a good preview as you come in on Galena. You see Bright Ridge and Windsor Point with similar berming and landscaping, a very good entryway. Also, we've evolved the conversation with staff. We're very happy that we've been able to reserve an easement location for a welcome to Sugar Grove sign here. So you'll see that when you're heading west on Galena, or right when you're getting off the 56 exit ramp, which would be a very nice feature as well. So just a brief note here, as a byproduct of the preservation areas, the donation to the King County Forest Preserve, park sites, buffer yards, open space areas, naturalized detention. By the way that folks traditionally calculate open space, we're at above or right at 60%, which is very high for open space. Even the way that the village calculates open space, which is a rather unconventional methodology, but it works well, we're still over 40% by just designing the sign or the site in a very thoughtful regard. With respect to access, there will be a full access off of Galena. It will have turn lanes for safe vehicular movements. In the eastbound direction, there'll be a left-hand turn lane. Westbound direction, there'll be a right-hand turn lane. IDOT has complete jurisdiction. They're the permitting agency. They've already reviewed the geometry, the sightline study, and they've approved this on a preliminary basis, which is a lot of success early on. So now we have to final design it, but all indications are going very well, and IDOT's been good to work with. The secondary access point will be off of Hampton Road. This is something that's always been intended. This is something that was platted this way in the early 2000s as part of the Windsor Point subdivision. The roadway was actually stubbed into this property, so we're just connecting at that exact point that has been dictated by prior approvals. I'd also point out that this is very helpful not only for passenger vehicles, but also for pedestrians who want to come from Windsor to Brighton to utilize the parks, connect up to the Virgil Gilman. And I'd also point out that the prior 2006 plan had the connection in the exact location which is what the approval exists today. And I'd also say that the prior 2006 plan also had a commercial component that would have then caused for the commingling of not just passenger vehicles, like is the case here, but also commercial vehicles. And then lastly, I'd point out that the prior plan had a north-south connection of a major roadway connecting Galena to 56 through the Bliss Woods, which would have brought a lot of traffic down here to that connection. So this is very much the optimal land use and following that long-guided principle to connect to Hampton. And I'd just leave it at it's always good planning to connect up compatible residential developments for life safety and enhanced circulation, and that's certainly the case here. At the concept level, there was also discussion about guest parking. So certainly each of the townhomes can have a 2-car garage. There's also room for parking 2 cars in the driveway, which exceeds all village parking requirements. In addition to that, we tasked our site planner to go back and find locations for additional guest parking spaces strategically located. We now have 25 guest parking spaces, so we're very comfortable with the parking supply in the townhome area. Now just shifting to the elevations. As mentioned, the single-family area will actually have 2 different home series. The first home series will be the Medallion series. These are the larger homes. These are step-up, second step-up, maybe for many folks, the final home. You can see that there's 6 different floor plans available. Now within those 6 floor plans, there's 5 different elevations. So I'm no mathematician, but to me that's 30 different distinct elevations to provide a lot of variety in the community just in the Medallion series alone. If you look at the square footages, certainly ranches are very popular. The Adams Ranch will be about 2,100 square feet, and then the 2-story homes go all the way up to over 3,200 square feet, 3-car options, 3 and 4 bedrooms, 2 baths, all the way up to 3.5 baths. And then the second series of single-family homes is the Horizon series. There'll be 5 different floor plans, and then there'll be 4 different elevations available per floor plan, which provides 20 different unique elevation options, coupled with the Horizon series in the single-family area alone. That's 50 different options for elevations. These homes will also be very nicely appointed. You can see there's also a ranch, which is about 1,500 square feet, and the 2-story homes go up to about 2,600 square feet. With regard to the townhomes, there will be 3 different floor plans available. Square footages will go from about 17 to 1,800 square feet. All will be 3 bedroom, all will be 2-car garage, all will be 2.5 bath. Since our concept meeting, we also took the feedback to heart relative to the elevations. You can see these have come a long way, very beautiful elevations at this point. When I look at them, I see the multiple peaks in the roofs, the decorative accents, decorative windows with the grates, windows in the garage doors, covered entries, masonry accents, the use of both vertical, horizontal siding, architectural shingle, a very attractive traditional townhome. And certainly the quality and the architecture goes along all 4 sides. You can see the wrapped windows, the peaks in the rear, the use of the different materials, horizontal, vertical, very attractive looking townhome. So we're going to have 2 different color palettes available. This is more a neutral, almost like a Revere pewter look, and this is a tan look. And each of the different color styles will have colors from the same family to really provide a complementary look. Next slide here, just included to give you an example of the quality that Lennar is known to incorporate into the interior of each of their homes. This is where we spend the vast majority of our time. Certainly the interiors are very important as well. Pricing, very important. You can't open up a newspaper, go on the internet, or do anything without hearing about the difficulties of home ownership, whether it be supply chain issues, mortgage rate increases, or lack of inventory, which is the predominant factor. It's very difficult to acquire a home. So what we want to do is provide optionality for folks. So you have different price points. Townhomes come in at $375,000 to $400,000, and the single-family homes range from about 425 all the way up to 535,000. So certainly, everything we like to do is data-driven. So we design communities specifically to the needs of the community. So here, you want to look at the average household incomes for folks within a 5-mile radius. It's actually a very high household income. About 50% of the folks within 5 miles have household incomes over $100,000. In fact, the average household income is about $123,000, projected to go up to about $140,000 by 2029. So what that tells you is that folks that live in a 5-mile radius, not only do they desire homes like this, but they could certainly afford to live in them. This is just a simple housing affordability calculator that we ran. As mentioned, supply side is very challenging. As of last week, Sugar Grove is not immune to the lack of inventory. As of last week, there are a total of 14 homes available for over 9,000 people. We're coming into the spring market. Traditionally, you would see way more homes available. And then Windsor Point, as I had referenced, very, very attractive community. Certainly, many, many people would want to live there. 1 home for sale in the entire community, and I suspect that this will be under contract in the next few days just because there's not opportunity. And that's what Brighton Point serves to address. Target market, consistent with the comprehensive plan, very appealing across the board. Certainly families will find the single family areas, the variety there very attractive. Active adults will certainly find the ranch opportunity very attractive. The younger active adults in the 55 and older range, 55 to 65, will find the townhomes and the low maintenance living very attractive as well. So as I wrap up, I'm not going to bore you too much longer with the details, but there's certainly significant benefits to the village that go along with a project like this. Not only enhancing your housing stock, which meets the comprehensive plan objectives, protection of environmentally sensitive areas, the creation of the park sites, and also creating that additional spending that folks come into the community. They support the commercial areas, they support the schools, they support the park district, and they tend to enhance the long-term viability of the village. So with that, we certainly just thank you for your time and consideration, and we're available for any questions.
Thank you, Vince.
Thank you.
Any questions? I'm sure there's a couple.
So, Vince,
Amy, I'm sorry.
sorry, it was kind of put to us a couple of weeks ago to try to be creative to alleviate some of the traffic issues that people are expecting through Windsor. And I've been going back and forth with some residents and with staff, and then something just kind of hit me today, besides my wife. And if you go to the site plan, if you don't mind.
Sure.
So my thought is, can we remove the road between lot, 68 and 56?
68 and 58.
68 and 58? That's just the north side of that?
By the park.
Correct.
Yeah.
When the fire chief was here earlier, he said, for him, it's just a matter of, turning access, and I imagine this meets the turning radius already. Quite frankly, it takes an expense off of your shoulders, and I think what it would do, if you look at the property on the left side, the larger homes, it would still give them access through Hampton. But everybody on that center street coming off of Galena and to the right of that, to the east of that, it would funnel them down to the intersection, the four corner intersection. And at that point, it's easier to go out on Galena than it is to go through Windsor. And I saw that you do have left and right turn lanes exiting on Galena. somebody had mentioned access to 56, and I don't see what that gives us, quite frankly, because the only thing that would do would allow people to come into the subdivision off of 56 directly instead of going to Kalina. It really wouldn't give people an exit, or what everybody's looking for is a shortcut to the Jewel, or or commercial corridor. And so I would ask that you look at that, and I provided to each of the trustees a look at what that is, and I'm happy to give that to you. Because I think that would go a long way towards alleviating a lot of the cars going through Hampton. And I think in conjunction with what I think Chief's going to talk about with the stop signs, would go a long way towards alleviating a lot of the issues that were brought up by residents. I also have a question. Which is the property you're referring to as what's going to be donated to the Foresters?
Oh, sure. Absolutely. So this one. So if you look at the top of the screen here, this wooded area here, about 42 acres of it is going to go to the forest preserve.
And do you mind?
I was going to say, Vince, we can't see, is it everything that's marked as dark green, that says existing woodland to remain?
Yes.
Everything's
Yes.
dark green on the north side of the property?
Yes. The only thing that's not included is just north. You see that eyebrow of single-family lots there?
Yes.
We're going to do like a 25-foot buffer easement, HOA maintained, to create that delineation so folks know where the forest preserve starts and we stop. So that'll be excluded from that as well. Trustee White, your points are well taken. It's my understanding that we're going to come back here at a future date, and then that will give us an opportunity to fully evaluate that. We know that from the concept meeting to here, we listened to a lot of the feedback, and that enhanced the plan and made for a better design, and we were happy to come back with 6 months later. I'm not saying that it's possible, certainly not saying that it's not possible. I'd like to meet with the Park District, and I'd like to find out if they think that this design would negatively affect access to their park or not. If they're comfortable with it, that's going to go a long way. Certainly, as you alluded to, talk to the fire district, make sure that life safety is provided for in the current plan. Talk with our engineers, make sure, for instance, this radius here works, and I think we'll have ample time over the next week to 2 weeks to give you a well thought out and reasoned answer. We'll also look into if ultimately it serves utility, if ultimately that lack of connection there, if it then limits, in our traffic engineer's estimation, if it limits the number of trips through Windsor, then we want to make sure it serves utility. The traffic study that I read relative to this anticipates that 10 or 15% of the peak trips will actually utilize Windsor because the geometry as it sits today is very effective and efficient for people to go out to Galena versus cutting through. If our traffic engineer is right, they're not right every time, but they're pretty darn good. That amounts to about 23 peak morning trips and 30 afternoon peak trips, which is about 1 trip every 2 minutes. So to me, it's not a sizable impact, but we're going to fully analyze it and get your professional staff an answer.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What are you thinking on for HOAs? You thinking a sub-HOA for the townhomes?
Absolutely, yep.
Or is it going to be completely separated?
So it's, I appreciate the question. So it's going to be a master association. Everybody, whether you're in Medallion, Horizon, or the townhomes, you're subject to the master association. But then there'll be a sub-association created just for the townhomes because that's a different product in that the homeowner association is going to shovel the snow. Homeowner association is responsible for lawn care. Homeowner association responsible for exterior maintenance. So to your point exactly, 2, everybody's a member of the master. Townhomes will have their own.
Okay. And then, yeah, so the buffer between the townhomes and single family, you said that was going to be HOA maintained. Which one?
master. The way that I set it up, and I have somebody that trumps me, is much better with the association, but I would say that buffer should be a master because it benefits both the single family and townhome. And she could say, no, but that's
AC units in the townhomes. So on the site plan, I saw like one outdoor exterior AC unit. Are you planning on putting them all at like the ends, or is it each unit and have it right behind it?
That is a question I'm going to have to defer. Who wants to take that one? I'll sit back.
Luke Zanoni, we're the civil engineer for Lennar. Typically, there is one air conditioning unit per unit, not per building, but there will be one air conditioning unit behind.
So they'll be lined up with each unit?
Correct. Because they're individually owned, so you'll have a different,
I didn't know if they were going to kind of get in the community. And then I guess a final question that's really kind of for everybody else is, when we're looking at the elevations, a lot of the elevations show garage doors with the windows, and then, but in some of them, I don't know if is that something we want on everything, or is it something that, they would normally sell it as an option. Townhomes are going to have it, I expect. And I do think the townhomes are pretty good. A lot of the photos, yeah.
The standard of the garage door, does it have glass panels in every?
You know what, depending on the elevation chosen, sometimes the glass in that particular carriage door with the glass doesn't go with the vernacular. So between the 50 different elevations, they're all very much curated by our in-house architect. And we like to stick with those exact elevations. That's why we provide a lot of variety, because if you let the homeowner get too much into selecting and these kind of things, it may not have the end look that we're looking for. And we also have very strict anti-monotony, which will be included within our development agreement. So the placement of those homes, you won't find them directly across the street, next door, or even next door to the ones across the street.
And you do that as well, and you probably don't have it regarding garage doors specifically, it's probably by style of unit?
Yes.
So I guess what if I'm understanding Trustee White is bringing up, is if you have, obviously you have the medallion series from the other, but let's just talk about the smaller lot sizes. Yes, you're gonna deviate in floor plan and exterior elevation, but what if 5, 6, 7 homes in a row and 3 across the street all have a solid panel garage door? I think that speaks to maybe the monotony that you're not asking. You would like a deviation in the garage door as well.
I'm not asking for anything, I just want to bring up the topic for discussion.
Yeah.
I think windows in the garage doors add a nice architectural feature.
Nice feature too.
They do.
We're starting at 375. How much are we?
Right. I think that, I guess my question to Lennar would be, are they okay with that if it's not standard practice in their monotony rule, is adding, that as a standard in the monotony consideration?
From that perspective, we always want to come up with a lot of variety, a lot of modern architecture that's appealing, and just be very specific as to what goes with what house. And then we're also very cognizant of, we don't want to price ourselves right out of the market. Like our least expensive average sale price on a townhome is $375. And we know what census data says about average household income. So we deliver beautiful homes, but if we start with this additional requirement, that additional requirement, then I think we start to price ourselves in a direction we don't want to go. And then also, I think we run into issues with, is it the architectural package that really goes with that home?
Fair.
Denise, do you mind going to the elevation page again?
Sure.
I'm not exactly sure where it is on there, but.
Are we talking townhome?
You seem to know it pretty well. Single families.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then there should be some type of requirements. So many elevations have brick or stone, so they're not all 100% vinyl siding.
A percentage of the overall plan.
Architectural shingles.
It has those.
Yes.
Yeah, just to make sure it's incorporated.
And we're doing, Electric and phone, electric's out of the back, right?
Everything's in the back.
In the back.
So, Luke, is that the way? Yeah, that's the way, yeah, yeah. And that's additional expense. I'm glad you bring that up because it went like this. So ComEd said everything has to be in the back. But the municipalities had authority. So they said, okay, we do an ordinance says, or ComEd says everything has to be in the front. Municipality does an ordinance says it's in the back. ComEd says, you win, it'll be in the back, but then you have to run it in conduit. That's $3,000 alone. That the consumer, the homeowner doesn't see, and then they wonder why the house is so expensive. It's just these latent increases across the board.
I think we talked about this too, the roof overhang on the side, minimum 12 inches on the roof. Yes.
Yeah, so each home will have the 12-inch rake.
And then we came up, I'm just confirming in concept plan, the 6-inch window trim around the back. It was really important on the ramp to the home, and I know it looks that way, but I just want to confirm size.
Correct.
Okay. As far as parks, dedicated parks, I know you mentioned you were going to dedicate parks to the park district, and if they so choose to accept them. I've had extensive conversations with Scott Nadeau from the park district. I'm sure you've met with him.
Yeah.
A big part of their concern is when they accept any park is being involved in the conversation to how the park is built and constructed. For them, it makes a huge difference when it comes to, whipping grass and those kinds of things, and mowing. It saves on their labor. So I just want to ensure that the conversation is there with them so that they're building any park that you expect to be dedicated to the park district, that it's built to their standards.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Those conversations are taking place. To confirm, here's Zach Luke with Gary R. Weber. Gary R. Weber is our landscape architect. They're very good at designing parks. They're also very good at collaborating with the park district.
Yes, and Scott and myself have been on a couple different calls. We've gone through the designs. We also looked at his park development guidelines overall. So we looked at specific details pertaining to weed whacking and just some of the simple things that maybe you don't think about. But we're incorporating our details to be exactly the way Scott wants it. His last comment to me was, I really thought I would be able to change something, and there's nothing here that I would change. So.
Yeah, that's great. I also want to add something too. It looks like we have a butterfly theme in here, and I know that's another thing that they work or have discussed is the theming of parks so that they're different from other community parks. Is that going to be the theme?
Yes, so there is a theme, an overall theme, I guess, to both parks, which is kind of insects, and I would say insects overall. The smaller tot lot has predominantly a monarch butterfly theme. And then the larger park has more of an insect theme with a butterfly feature, climbing feature within it.
Also on the park dedication, we've included in the draft development agreement that they have to enter into an agreement for the improvement dedication of the park with the park district for them to accept it. So that includes design as part of that agreement to just ensure that the park district's at the table. So we covered that as well in the agreement.
And we agree with Scott's suggestion. Good.
When the first concept plan was brought to us, we talked about that park being closer to the south end, and here's on the east end. Is there a reason? We talked about in that cul-de-sac where there's a lot 10, so that there'd be access to those townhomes, to all the townhomes.
So here, we just believe it's a beautiful setup. First, because it's still directly adjacent to the townhomes, whether it be on the south side of the townhomes or the north side, it's easily accessible. You pull it away from Galena, that gives it a better feel. You move it closer to the woodlands, closer to north, where you have all those great environmental areas. And then plus it helps also to provide for a nice buffer for the homeowners from the lift station as well. So we thought that was an optimal location for that park.
And there's trail systems in there too, isn't there, from that park? I see the white line. Is that all paved? Or no, is it crushed? It's a crushed gravel.
Yeah, crushed. So on the parks, you can see, and you're absolutely right, not to mention all the sidewalks throughout the community, but then all the sidewalks and the paths interconnecting the different features in the park sites, so they'll be well thought out. And then in addition, one thing that we wanted to include in the northeastern park is you'll see the guest parking. So not every time somebody wants to walk there, ride their bike, maybe you got a young one, year or 2 year old, you drive and you'll have immediate access to that park. So we thought that that was a nice feature.
So kind of piggyback on what Trustee White was saying, and I don't know if it's feasible now, it sounds like you're gonna come back after your traffic engineer has time to evaluate whether or not that parcel by or that roadway by 68 and 58 can be closed off. And I see that you have guest parking, yes, for the townhome near this park. Would it be contemplated at all that you create maybe a T-stop into the park or some parking access, but at least limiting it so you can't get through, but create a parking lot on that way, or maybe just in screen space? And if the access point is it's better by pedestrians than parking by that park, then great. I would like to see less parking, but just as a food for thought, as you're evaluating that, from the engineers evaluating that, whether parking could be replaced instead of roadway. But just, I think the goal is what he's trying to say, correct me if I'm wrong, is that you're just trying to create traffic pattern in the subdivision from that side, from the east side, to flow to Galena. And then what this will prevent is those folks on the other side, they'll have two easier options, whether it be Hampton or flowing to Galena.
And we'll definitely look at that, yeah. Scott, when do you anticipate that we would be back? 2 weeks?
April 15th is the next board meeting.
So that should be, so our goal would then be to evaluate this in the next week or so and let your staff know if it's something that's possible. To get at that, it's going to be meet with the park district, meet with the fire district, meet with our traffic engineer, and then come back with a reason.
Maybe yes.
Yeah.
What do you say?
Yes.
And I'd like to, while you're at it, encourage you to look at a landscape median there between, on Hampton, there by lot 1 and lot 81. And,
Can you zoom out, or at least go up to our...
Sure.
to
So the
break up that drive. At the far west end, going into.
Is the roadway wide enough?
They might have to eliminate a house or two. but-
So
I'm not sure the roadway is wide enough.
it's not, I'm assuming that's the same width as Hampton?
You're exactly right. It's a 60-foot right-of-way, 28-foot pavement section, which matches Hampton, which matches Windsor precisely.
Right, and I tell you right now, you can't get a.
Well, you might have to
Right,
eliminate a
Hampton.
couple lots. They're getting 20 additional lots
Well,
based on the higher density, and maybe it's eliminating lot 1, 80, and 81 to accommodate that. But, you know, they're getting a nice higher density, which I'm not opposed to. There should be some higher density, but to accommodate some requests that we're getting from the existing residents.
so you're saying get rid of, to just make it wider right before it gets.
Yeah, that's a traffic calming.
Right.
Put a median in.
Right. I was looking at potentially between just north of 21, can you just eliminate that road and put a lot or something there?
So that it swings from one south?
Yeah, so you,
Goes from one
that
side.
was not my idea, I got that from a resident, so I thought it was pretty cool. So that's the easy, just the road, portion of the road, just north of 21, lot 21. If you just make that, I don't know, if that's a 60-foot lot, you know, would that give you a 60-foot lot? I don't know, a lot or open space or something there. So you just dead end Hampton at that point.
Actually, it would probably be better to dead end it at 20.
Well, as long as you get access, yeah, we could do that.
Think of it from Brad's perspective of plowing, having a short
Right.
stub there.
I just want to make sure we have access to that flat lot, but that seems that it would eliminate a lot of the traffic because only a small portion would go into Windsor.
And that's sort of Jamie's point by eliminating the road up by 58.
Right,
60,
this makes it much, I think, more restrictive.
Greg, I'm sorry.
And
I chime in on that for a second because
to their point, I totally understand what you're trying to say. He's gonna run a plow, okay? You see what they're saying from Hampton, and if you cut it right there at between 1 and 20, that's where it would have to stop. The village wouldn't be able to go even a little bit because they can't turn
It would
around.
just be a curve.
So they'd have to go from 1 south, and there would be no extension of roadway.
Well, then, yeah, then just cut it at that
Okay.
point.
Well, you'd lose lots
You
78 and 79. Well, at least 78.
You might lose 78. Or you make that one a bigger lot.
Well, you gave us another good
We'll give you another
suggestion.
thing to look at.
Yeah, and you know what, preliminary feedback over there is, they like it, so we'll come back. So are we talking then, if we say eliminate the connection by 20 and 21, and that makes it very difficult for people, which that's the intent, but also then you still have a secondary emergency access which
Right.
is closed. Are we talking about then if we do that, then potentially we don't have to do or shouldn't, it would obviate the need to do that modification by 68 and 50?
Correct.
Yeah.
It's an either, I think it's an either or. I think the residents, from what I'm looking at their heads in the audience, like Heidi's idea.
It's not mine, it was, I got it from residents.
I think if that would alleviate a lot, because now you have to go basically south to the entrance to then go east and north and cut through versus just get on Galena.
Well, also keeping the pedestrian connectivity for the kids that run
Correct.
the sidewalks.
Right.
Yeah.
So I would encourage either a path or a sidewalk so that any residents from the subdivision of Hampton
Right.
don't have to make the roadway connection,
Right.
that they're connecting and then going to the parks.
Yeah.
If that's feasible, it sounds like that might be,
It could work.
okay.
Yeah, and based upon the chatter I hear from my team, I think that, is
Okay,
that right?
There are a couple possibilities.
okay. See, this is collaboration at its finest.
What's IDOT saying about Galena Boulevard? Is there enough right of way for 4 lanes along your section?
So you brought that up at the concept hearing, so that gave us a chance to go back and visit that with IDOT. IDOT, as we know, is a permitting agency. They have sole jurisdiction. There is the sufficient right-of-way there to cut in the left-hand turn lane, just like you see at Windsor, which functions very well at level of service A and B, as it will function here the same. There is no ambition by IDOT to make that 4 lanes. So it'll be the same condition in front of Windsor. You're going to have through lanes in either direction, and then the 3rd lane will be the left-hand turn lane into the primary entrance.
But there is future right of way if they do plan to widen it.
They got a nice sized
Yeah, you know,
Plus you got the property to the south.
you know, that part didn't come up. We confirmed that there's existing right-of-way for the improvement that IDOT wants, which is the turn lane.
And then expansion, I would say, and assume that if they were to do it, it would be southbound, right? Because there's nothing.
Yeah, don't know geography.
Okay. I know, I'm gonna just give them a moment. Heidi, did you have one?
I'll limit it to one.
No, go ahead.
3 quick questions, and they should be easy.
Yeah.
Are the ceilings in these homes 9-foot first floor? I'm just curious, that was a standard at Windsor Point. And I'm not saying you have to have the same standard, I was just looking at some of the photos you have, the interior, and it looked like they were 9-foot, but it was difficult to tell.
First floor, absolutely 9 foot. And
Okay.
also, I was pleased to find out earlier this week, as I went back up to the notes from concept, this question came up. Townhomes are also 9 feet first
Okay.
floor ceiling, which is a nice feature.
Yes, it is. It's a feature. I know that a lot of homeowners don't necessarily pay for an option, but if it's a standard, then you get a better home automatically like that.
Agreed, and most of the time they walk in, it feels big to them, they don't, like me,
Yeah.
realize why, and it's the 9 foot ceiling.
I'm assuming since the road will be the same, is it gonna be the same width road as Hampton and Windsor Point, for all the other roads in there? Is there, basically I'm trying to get, is it gonna be restricted parking to only one side like Windsor Point has?
Correct, exactly
Okay.
the same condition. Windsor is 28 feet except for their collector roadway,
Right.
which is park. And we're going to be 28 feet, and we're going to do the same, restrict parking on one side of the street. Some, such as myself, believe that's a good condition as traffic calming as well. So it's going to be a mirror image in here.
Okay. And then the last question I had, construction access, can we make sure construction access does not go through Windsor Point for construction work?
Yeah, so I appreciate that question because we're going to be able to work in conjunction with that. We could certainly tell our trades that your construction access is off of Galena. And we could also say, hey, there is no construction access through Windsor. But ultimately, if they're violating that, then I'm looking at chief as a way for maybe a enforcement action. Maybe there's an ordinance on file that local roads aren't for construction traffic. Maybe there's not, but that's something that makes a lot of sense because certainly we don't want our contractors coming through Windsor, and the folks in Windsor don't want that either. So that's something we could collaborate on. And then Scott here's also put provisions in the development agreement relative to where our stockpiles could be, relative to where our construction trailers could be, being very cognizant of the existing subdivision, Windsor.
Yeah, because I think there's a bus stop on the end of Hampton, and there's several bus stops. There's a lot of bus stops. We got a lot of kids in Windsor Point, and so that would not be good. And Hampton's too small for construction trucks to continuously be going through.
You're right, they absolutely shouldn't be going down. It's a
Okay.
local road. Yeah.
All right, thanks. Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you, trustee Lundy. And we're going to go to this side. Any questions? Trustee Aaron, trustee Bonnie.
Mine were about traffic, and I think that they've been covered.
I know chief is going to speak about it too, but go ahead.
Rosanova, correct?
Yeah.
Mr. Rosanova. Thank you. I just want to reiterate how important it is to us for the safety of the residents of Windsor Point. I know you're going to take that back, and I know your team's working on it. It's extremely important to us that we try to mediate a solution here. So as you're having that conversation, I want you to stress the importance to try to find a solution to this issue best we can. Safety is a priority for everybody on this board. It always has been, always will be. So I want to make sure that you guys understand that as you're going into these meetings, when we're not here harping at you about the safety. So that's all I have. But other than that, I'm very happy with it. I think the fact that Windsor Point has always said from day one that they're not against this development, they're just concerned about the safety. I think that's leaps and bounds for you guys to have a neighbor that's willing to kind of embrace you guys with open arms, so to speak. That's huge. So let's try to be good neighbors and fix this. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Going through the development agreement, did I already talk about that now?
Yeah,
Well, that's a little later on the agenda.
Yep.
but-
Do you want to just, okay.
Let's go, let me just put my glasses back, I'm sorry. Okay, have we touched upon everything here under item G, the PUD major amendment, special use, preliminary PUD, preliminary plat of subdivision, we're kind of tackling it all, zoning deviations, it's all in here, architecture, so we
Could
hit
I
that.
ask one question on
Yes.
this plan, this slide that's up? Where it says existing gravel path on the north end, north of the Fox Metro station, is that owned by Fox Metro, or is that part of this property?
Yes, so that the land is currently owned by our seller. It'll be owned by Lennar. It's encumbered with that easement for secondary access to Fox Metro. So what we discussed with the Forest Preserve is when we dedicate the forest to them, we're going to reserve that easement in place where it exists today so that they'll have the secondary means of access to their lift station.
Okay, and then, I don't know if we need to, since it's forest preserve, but it could be a future place for a bridge if Bliss Creek would ever change, or those maintenance sheds get moved. There might be a need for a secondary bridge crossing over the creek at that location, so I don't know if we work that out now, or just ask the forest preserve to reserve that.
Do you want to do Chief's safety presentation, or do you want to go to the development agreement, whatever we're ready for both?
It's okay. I know that we have some board members that are certainly anxious to hear Chief's. Can we roll into that? Because it does talk about, obviously, Hampton, specifically in Windsor Point. Thank you, Danny.
as a village board, her last meeting on resident.
Could you use the mic for, yeah, big crowd tonight.
At the last board meeting, some of the residents came forward and spoke about current conditions and made a point reflecting their concerns about this development that came to the attention of the police department. We wanted to be proactive and just take a look at the environment that's out there right now. So the police department conducted a traffic study. It ran March 7th through we picked up the data yesterday through the 17th, so we collected 10 days with the data, and we'll go through that. So some of the concerns that you heard were speeding autos, bus stop safety when the children are there in the morning, and then again in the afternoon. And I just want to remind the board that the police department is constantly going to the bus stops as time permits, every morning, every afternoon. We can't make every bus stop because we can't just follow the bus around to make sure that it's safe. But we do I believe, a great job making sure a police officer is around during those times. So, and then also the impact, as you heard tonight, the adjacent new development may cause on traffic volume in their neighborhood. So one of the things that we did was a traffic campaign. We set up one of our devices at East Park Avenue in Chatsworth, and we monitor traffic over the 10-day period. So, and this is the information, it was abbreviated that I shared with Lou, the president of the homeowner association out there, because it was last week, but this is updated data as of yesterday. So the residential area currently is set for 30 miles per hour. And if you can imagine from Capitol Drive, there's a four-way stop sign at Capitol, and then you follow East Park Avenue all the way around, and then it flows into Regency Boulevard. There's no traffic control, there's nothing to break it up between that long stretch. But there's some devices that are in place, and it's a collector road, and it's meant to be, but there's also some suggestions that we're gonna come to shortly. So don't look at this too close. It's, unless we start spinning the wheel on you and you're going to be hypnotized. But this is the average speeds that we see over the 10-day period, and it's encapsulated and it's really compressed into the 10 days. We could break it down by day, and we could break it down by hour. We can expand it out with the program. So your average speeds right now, if you're heading from Capitol and you're heading towards Regency Boulevard down Park, the average speed is 24.18, I believe, or 18. And in the opposite direction, as you're coming off of Regency around the curve, their speed was 24.45. So just keep that in mind. It's it's still under the 25 mile per hour speed limit that we're trying to help set up for the residential areas of the village. So, and here's some of the maximum speed. So even though, so yes, there are always going to be speeding autos out there. It keeps our profession in place. But when we start looking at the numbers and the quantity that compares to all the amount of traffic that's taking place, you'll see some patterns that happen. And I have to fall somewhat on the sword here. Some of those high speeds could also be emergency vehicles entering and exiting the subdivision. So for certain types of calls, it's also residents, it's also people who are passing through. So, but if you look at our chart in the thickness part of it, you're going to see between majority of the people are under the 30 miles per hour. Moving forward to the next one is the vehicles per hour as a collector road. This one really shocked me, and I think it shocked a lot of our engineer as well, the number of vehicles per hour that's traveling along each roadway. So you don't see too much low numbers like this on a collector road, vehicles per hour. You're looking somewhere between 10 and 15 on average. I'm sorry, 10 to 20 on average. The majority of them are falling underneath 10 vehicles traveling down Park Avenue past this point every hour. So it's not really a collector road right now, but it was built and designed as a collector road. We see higher traffic in a subdivision over there in the thousands. This really caught me off guard. But if you look in the top right-hand corner, it talks about the number of incoming vehicles that went over the 10-day period. You're looking at 2,253 vehicles that passed through. So a little over 200 cars past this point. And then in the opposite direction, you had about 2,041. So you're not seeing a lot of traffic for a collector road. And now this is the analytics of breaking it down in categories of the speed of the vehicles that are coming towards the sign and also going away from the sign. So the majority of the traffic, you see in almost 92%, is well below the 30 miles per hour. You have some that are another group that's above the 5 additional miles, and then this is where you start getting the anomalies of 36 to all the way up to 40 or to 46 and above. That number is quite astounding for us in law enforcement to see how low this is. There is definitely a speeding concern during certain times, but it's not what we see in other residential neighborhoods. So same in reverse for the other ones. So the majority of the people are obeying the speed limit and well below the speed limit. And then what we look at is the 85 percentile for the number of vehicles that are traveling. The vehicles that are traveling incoming, the 85th percentile, majority of all those vehicles are doing 27 miles per hour or less. So well below the speed limit, and then the opposite is 28 miles per hour. Again, other neighborhoods have higher numbers than this, and this is a collector road. So some of the things that we always look for is engineering, education, and enforcement, and the ways that we accomplish that are up here. We have some suggestions that we're moving forward. We have some safety improvements that we acknowledged. I'm going to give you a little history lesson here, or a little bit of public safety concern that I hope won't happen again. If we have one intersection with 4 names tying into that one intersection. I don't know how it happened. I wish the police department or someone else would have been involved in this and encouraged you not, the village board, not to name a street like this or an intersection like this. We have Park Avenue that turns into Regency, and then on the cross side you have Exeter coming up, and you have Bellevue going around towards the park. So please, in the future, if I'm not here or someone else is not here, don't let this happen.
That's especially confusing when you get where your kid's bus stop is, and it's on that corner, but you gotta figure out which one based off the street names.
Yeah, you'll see this in adjoining communities where one municipality has a street name and road signs for theirs. You see it on the other side. You typically don't see this within one owns jurisdiction. So this is the only one in Sugar Grove. So trivia night, just remember this. You'll win some money. So we have some right now. We're seeing a couple things with that long stretching where the curvature is a line of sight, and we have adjacent parks that currently, and we'll use Exeter and Bellevue, currently have stop signs in place. Our recommendation, and we'll make sure they meet the warrants, is to make that a 4-way intersection so that they have to stop there for Park and then Regency. So in addition, down over on Somerset, it's currently a yield sign with the anticipation of a new subdivision going in, converting that over to a stop sign with a sign that says cross traffic does not stop. It would be appropriate to put underneath it. You already have existing traffic calming islands coming off of Regency for anyone else. And then we also have a caveat up there that we're still exploring other signage and reviewing the subdivision. If you follow Hampton all the way up to Exeter, there's a park there. Currently, there's a yield sign that goes from Hampton to Exeter. It's a T intersection. It's not consistent with the other signage that we have. We're still looking at to see if a stop sign is warranted with all the kids that are utilizing that park, and if we add additional traffic. So So I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
My first question is, now that you did basically a speed study, how do we get that speed changed to 25?
We're still-
It shows that you're,
Yes, we're still gonna circle back and do some other streets within the subdivision,
okay.
and then we'll go from there, so, but yes, correct.
So I guess my question that I would have is, if a speed sign is a traffic calming device, having the speed sign out there on, doesn't that
So we
give
have,
us a little bit of a skewed number?
it does, so we have.
So without the,
Yeah.
without the speed limit on it?
Yes, so we have options with the signs that are on the poles. It's called spy mode, and our trailers, it's stealth mode. So you can turn them off and still collect data. So we're still analyzing both on and off, and it's still, the signs are still going to remain out there for a little bit, but we're going to move it around, and we'll go from there. But yes, we're collecting both when it's off and on.
Any additional questions for Chief? Thank you for the recommendations and one, doing the speed study and providing that information. I think it's always enlightening to see data, right? And what we assume are the norms. So thank you for that. Okay. We're going to move on then to the rezoning of Brighton. We're going to say, Vince, you're back up. Okay, so item H is our rezoning of Brighton Ridge. And Danny, I don't know if you want to take that, together with him, or what, I'm sorry.
So as part of the proposal, they're also requesting to rezone the property. The current zoning on the property is R2 with a PUD and B3 with a PUD because the previously approved plan included some commercial. The rezoning request would be to rezone the property to R2 PUD and R3 PUD to accommodate single-family homes and the townhomes. And we did hold the required public hearing with the planning commission, and they recommended approval.
Thank you. Okay.
Were there any public comments regarding the rezoning?
I will let Scott take that one. I was not at that meeting.
Nothing specific to the rezoning.
Okay. Any other comments? Sounds like that one we're good with. All right, amendment to the annexation agreement.
Okay. Final piece of this project is amending the current annexation agreement that is relevant to the property as it exists. There was a current annexation agreement approved in April 17th of 2006, so it is set to expire in 2026. There are a number of items in this agreement that are not applicable to the new proposal. So the existing agreement either needs to be amended, where we remove everything out of the agreement except for the zoning, or the other option would be to do an early termination of the existing agreement. Our attorneys are still hashing out the best solution of how to accomplish what is needed to move forward with the project.
Vince, do you have a weigh-in on that as an attorney, and the other side is from?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So over the past maybe 3 or 4 months, we've been working with your village attorney as well as Scott, and we feel like we've come a long way, and there's a meeting of the minds with the development agreement. The existing annexation agreement, this is a 2006 edition, March. Illinois statute says you can only have an annexation agreement in effect for 20 years. So this existing annexation agreement, as you have today, expires by state law this time next year. So I'm not convinced on state law is if you could extend these things or not. Statute doesn't speak to that. The only thing that statute tells me is you can only have an annexation agreement for 20 years. Also, this annexation agreement that exists today speaks to a development that's totally different. It speaks to concepts that have nothing to do with this development, namely the fact that there was a significant commercial component. So then it's trying to fit a peg in a square post or whatever that saying is. So I thought it was a good opportunity for us to ultimately enter a new clean development agreement, which speaks very specifically to this development, achieves the village's objectives, achieves Lennar's objectives. So that's the agreement in your packet. So the way that we would see this play out would be ultimately we would seek approval of the development agreement. Ultimately, a companion document will go along with that, which will be the termination of the existing annexation agreement. So if it was the trustees' pleasure to approve the development, along with those approvals would be termination of the annexation agreement and then approval of the development agreement specific to this property, specific to 2025. One other caveat is we're not going to enter into a development agreement with the village until we own the land, nor does the village want to enter into a development agreement with us until we own the land. That's the situation we find ourselves in today. There's an annexation agreement with Pulte that binds the property. They walked 18 and a half years ago. So we're not going to do that twice. So ultimately, if we were fortunate enough to receive approvals, they would be held in escrow. Once we close, we would notify the village. At that point, the village records the annexation agreement termination, records the development agreement. We're off to the races. Everybody's interests are protected.
Thank you for that explanation. Are there any questions? Hearing none, we will move to the next item, the development agreement. It looks like this is a Scott board report, or did you?
Yeah, we worked on it together, but I'll happily take it. So there was a proposed development agreement, as Vince noted, that would be a replacement for the annexation agreement that goes with the property. This would go into effect when the annexation agreement was either terminated or amended to remove the pertinent parts. This was reviewed by the village attorney, myself, the village engineer, and also reviewed by the community development. It was then negotiated with Lennar to get it to the condition that is here today. I've noted, specifically pointed out some notable things in there, that they do have 365 days to acquire the property and execute the agreement. That goes to the what Vince just mentioned about wanting to enter into the agreement with Lennar as the property owner and not with the existing property owner. They can develop in phases at a minimum of 25 units per phase, although they have been indicating that they would probably just do one phase, but that's what is allowable in the agreement. They can continue farming in the interim, and they can start mass earthwork prior to approval, which is something the village has been allowing for some time now as well. Wanted to also mention that specifically there is the fees in the back of the agreement. It's on the last page, I believe, is the fee structure. And it matches the most recently approved fees by the village board, as well as land cash for the schools and parks in accordance with our land cash ordinance. Those numbers were calculated and sent over to Lennar by Matt. And it will see a significant amount of money potentially going to the school and park district, as we know that they both are badly in need of, to help them as this development is happening and to service the new residents as they come in. And then, of course, as the properties go on the property tax roll, that will also benefit all of the taxing districts in the village.
Do you have a breakdown of the revenues? I know I see it here, but based on...
Yeah, so I ran some totals. The total for the school between park and land cash would be roughly $900,000, and the park total for land cash and impact would be roughly $810,000 once it's fully built out. They are asking to make these payments at permit, which is commonplace for the most recent developments we've done, and also common in the development agreement or the annexation agreement with Crown. Finally, there was one item that has changed since the draft was printed and put in your packet. We were still negotiating page 18, number 22, professional fees. The last sentence from that about a fee cap has been removed, and there has been an update made to section B, which says that only changes and portions of the application affected by the changes will be re-reviewed. This just goes to the request from Lennar to not have outside fees run up very high in cost. So they wanted a cap initially, but that's not something the village is comfortable taking on, because we don't want the general fund covering re-reviews for a developer. But we also understand that they want to try to have some cost control. So the language was added about the re-reviews, which is also similar to the language that is in the annexation agreement with Crown. So this will not be, I also wanted to avoid, as an administrator, for staff to have 19 different ways to worry about reviews and re-reviews and how we build that. So we're trying to have our normal fee, our normal program, which is money goes into escrow and the re-reviews are done. And then there's this one where only changes are re-reviewed, which we thought was, or changes, we talked to Brian about this as well, or changes that would affect a different part of the engineering because of the re-review. It's not to go back and look at a completely different part that already should have been reviewed. It's something that we as staff feel is a reasonable request. That's the only difference from the version that's in your packet.
And I have to assume that this happens to developers on a regular occasion when they're, hence why Crown wanted it and you want it, is that they find different things that they missed the first go around, and now you're just stuck in reviews and paying for reviews over and over.
Purgatory.
Yeah. Yeah, good perfect word, perfect word. Okay, any additional call outs on this, on the redevelopment agreement? Any discussion, questions for staff?
So on page 205 of the packet, page 6 of the agreement, we make a representation that we haven't changed our ordinances in the last 180 days. Did we adopt the manual within that time?
We haven't officially adopted yet. We got our attorney review. We just got that back, so we haven't, like, I guess completely, you guys approved it again with the attorney review.
We better make sure that it's.
Right.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, just to clarify, I think Jamie's speaking to the engineering manual, not the 2021 building codes, which we wanted to try to account for in here that we're going to be going to the 2021 building codes, which are not currently in place, that we need to go to by new state law. So we're in the process of doing that. But I think what Jamie was asking about is the update to the engineering manual.
Which we just did. We just completed that.
Yeah, so we need to change that representation.
To make sure that that's appropriately included.
That would be helpful. Yeah, thank you, because you're.
We'll flesh out that language.
You're exactly right. You called out in here that you're adopting the 2021 building codes before July 1st, so that we design off of that. That's very helpful, yeah. So anything else that's adopted, thank you.
Yeah, plus we give the 180 days for modifications, which, we determined was appropriate. So then I guess that brings up the next question is, why are we having deviations from the engineering manual already? Page 234 of the packet. I mean, I understand two, because we're doing the 60 foot.
What was it, the lime stabilization?
Yeah, one of them's the lime stabilization.
And if it's helpful, I have our engineer here that can walk us through
Absolutely.
the thought process between each of the deviations.
I think that the hard part is that, and I guess I would refer to Brian, is that before when we approved the engineering manual, we thought we were changing the standards and some of the ground truth process. We made our village standards a little more stringent and made sure that they adhered to that, but we didn't want to hold them to a higher standard than the rest of the village, which is why the engineering manual is the way it is. So that village-wide, the standard is improved. Correct, okay, so I'm sorry, just wanted to give a little context. So the deviations maybe that you're calling out, or that are called out on page 35, what is the need to deviate from our engineering manual?
Yeah, so the first one is about lime stabilization, which the engineering manual does address. We would still request this deviation because there isn't a provision like this in the engineering manual. So it would still apply as it does, as it did in the code, as it does now in the new engineering manual.
But if you do a proof roll and the 12 inches doesn't work, still have to come back and.
Well, part of it is has to do with taking credit for the lime stabilization within the roadway structural number, which is not something that is explicitly allowed in the engineering manual.
I had conversations with both EEI and HR Green, and they both have told me that they've done lime stabilization on numerous projects in the area, and what they're proposing is acceptable with the industry standards. We want to be careful that we don't go too crazy with the lime stabilization, and there are a lot of, there's some tricks to it as far as weather conditions and application rates and making sure that the weather doesn't screw it up. So there's a lot of stuff that isn't written into the codes that experience shows of it, and that's what EEI and HR Green is now.
So you're saying you're okay with this?
Yes.
Okay.
One thing to add to that, thank you, Brian, for the introduction and help there. There are some standards that the Illinois Department of Transportation also has related to this. We will write our specifications in a way that will meet the Illinois Department of Transportation.
We've adopted IDOT standards by.
That's what I thought it was doing, yeah. Okay. That's why I was wondering why would it be vegan?
Makes sense.
Yeah, the other ones I get.
Okay. Any additional questions on the redevelopment agreement? Okay. Hearing none, that concludes the Lennar, right? Yes, the Lennar items within the discussion. Look forward to having you back on, if you're ready, on April 15th.
We'll be ready, and thank you very much.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Oh, we're gonna get all the exhibits.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Some of the exhibits, Jamie, are where Danny's paperwork, and I didn't want to triple print them, but we'll have to finalize the agreement. That's what I figured.
We're going to let the room clear out for a minute so we can continue. Okay.
I'll be ready.
All right, I'm just gonna ask the room for a minute, if you'd like to discuss and chat, you feel free to use the vestibule, but the board does have some more items on the agenda to discuss. Thank you all for attending. Thank you. Okay, Matt, fiscal year 25-26 general fund budget workshop number 3.
All right, so this is the final budget workshop. We covered the general fund in the first one, the remaining funds in the second one. This is just to go over any items that may have changed or any updates. So what I wanted to address is the governor's budget. Right now is proposed, obviously eliminating the grocery tax as of January 1st, which we discussed. And then also there is no change currently proposed for LGDF. So it's not decreasing, but it's also not increasing. So just some changes. One is in the capital fund. It's not really a change for this year, as it's addressing it for the second half of that project. It was brought up to discuss what the tariffs look like as far as construction costs. What I received from Corrigan and Clark is they said what they're telling their clients is to double the inflation and escalation factor, so that's what we are doing. So it was in there as 4, so we've doubled it to 8. So that's the increase of 169,000 right now because they are unsure as how far that's going to go, but that's what they're currently telling all their clients. So I just wanted to give an update on that. It doesn't affect this year budget, as that'll be in the next year, in 26. The only 2 real main items that have changed is in the road infrastructure fund. We updated based on, like Brad discussed, the purchase of this year's road salt at about 1,100 tons at the $71.34. And then we updated this current upcoming budget for the 1,200 at an estimated 80 tons, $80 a ton, which increased at about $10,000. And then also we removed the match portion for John Shields. That was remaining and outstanding as we did receive that final invoice from IDOT. So those are really the only changes that we have made. Also in the packet is just the public hearing notice that we will have at the April 15th meeting. That'll be in the newspaper next Thursday, and has already been sent. So if there's on any type of part of the budget, it doesn't have to be just updates, but any part that needs to be discussed or changes the time, and I can make those edits before it's back on April 15th for approval.
Okay. Thank you, Matt. Does anyone have any comments or questions regarding the general fund budget? We're in it. Okay. I just want to, I know Doc talked to Chief about the speed alert signs that we were just discussing, and that when they were being used, like obviously utilized in Windsor Point. In your budget process of planning, you had added those, and I think we cut them out prior to maybe it even coming to the village board. Just as we've had conversations about trying to utilize and bring down speed limits in residential neighborhoods, we met with a resident in Dubin Woods as we're trying to create or talk about alternative ways of pedestrian traffic. It always still comes back to speed within a neighborhood. So I just want you to touch upon one. I asked Matt how much it would increase the budget. I think your number that you provided to Matt was $4,000. It would be an increase of $4,000. I think that was for 2 units?
That's
One unit. Okay. And so the next question I have, so just so everybody's clear, I don't want to ask questions that you don't know what I'm talking about. The one unit he had up in Dubin Woods was malfunctioning. If you remember last board meeting, he said he was recording speeds of 100 miles an hour. He thought it was airplanes. And then they started to study over, and it seems that there's more challenges with that unit. So the first question is, what's it look like for repair? Are those types of things under warranty? If we were to acquire a new one, maybe you can tackle this with Matt, but if we were to acquire a new one, is there a warranty with that? So one, time and cost to repairing what we have, and then whether, how many do we have on hand, and then acquiring potentially a new one.
Sure, thank you. So the current inventory right now is we have one smaller speed trailer. That one right now is the speed sensor has to be sent back to Texas for repairs. They go bad. That's our longest speed trailer that we've had, so it's still sitting in the back parking lot. We're waiting for we have to dismantle the sensor out of the panel and send it in. The larger one, the larger speed sign / display sign, it was the latest addition to our inventory, so that as of this afternoon was out on Wheatfield, monitoring or just advising traffic, whether we have to check something, there's an accident display that's going on after this person goes by. So, but it's fully functioning. And we have 2 pole signs, and those are the ones that you saw that we utilized in Windsor Point. And sometimes we're not able to place the small speed sign or the large speed sign in certain areas, just because of the road, the conditions, line of sight. We just don't want it to impede traffic and someone hitting it. Sometimes we're putting it up on the parkway, sometimes we're putting it up on private property if it's close enough to the roadway to capture the radius. So, so those are our 4 signs, and then we have one. It's a box that is a sensor. It just collects data. It doesn't display anything, and that's the one that we had out in Dubin Woods that has to be shipped back to Texas. That one should be covered under warranty because it's within a couple of years. So.
But all of them can collect data for the purposes of?
All collect data. All the current 4 ones that display the speed limits collect data, as well as you can turn them off, stealth mode, and still collect the data. And then there's one speed sensor that's just a box that's also pole mounted or is inconspicuous. You're not going to be able to know what it is. Most people driving by, it's not going to know what it is. And that's the one that we have to send the whole unit back into Texas.
Okay, and that would leave us with 3? Or no? Is my math wrong?
No.
I thought you just said we have 4.
No, I apologize. So we have 4 actual display signs and 1 other unit that is just a traffic data collector only. It does not display any signal. It's a small box.
And is that one the one that's broken? The traffic collector?
I have 2. I have the smallest speed trailer, the speed sensor, it has to be removed and sent in.
Okay.
And repaired, and then the actual data collector box has to be recharged.
And I guess my question is, are those fixes budgeted? Are those things that would fall in this year's budget, or are those things that we need to budget for next year?
The speed sensor in the old trailer is not budgeted, it's not under warranty, so we'll have to pay time and materials on that one. And the speeds traffic control device collector is covered under warranty, so which is the time, not just waiting for it to come back. So as I was putting the speed trailer out on Wheatfield today, so we're seven locations lining devices requested by neighbors or neighborhoods. Got it down to 6, but as soon as they put this one up, one of the residents asked me to put it in at the far end of the subdivision about speeding auto, so we're 7 now. And we typically, we're sending these out there from 10 to 14 weeks. By the time we get to that third one, we're not really responsive to the residents. We're 2 months away from their initial request because there's a line of people already that are asked for. So that's why we're asking for an additional unit. Actually, I asked for 2, and they got me down to 1, so.
Okay. So I bring it up just because the goal is to try to get our neighborhoods down. And that's been a big thing for a lot of years. In our subdivision, look at those speeds and think those are what came in the collections. Those are lovely. Those don't exist in our neighborhood. There were 2, I told the chief, there were 2 teens about a week ago that passed a car on Wheatfield, one right after another, doing over 50 miles an hour. Yeah, passing. That's what happens when you have wide roads. So I'm a proponent of more if it helps us bring our speeds down. That's really the goal. But I wanted to know the inventory. It sounds like we have some that need to go back, which is going to bring your inventory down to 3.
Yes, and we'll get it back up to 4. So, it will be a couple of weeks, but we'll get it back up to 4. Our number 1 complaint from the residents to us is speeding autos. Doesn't matter what time of the year it is. Sometimes we don't deploy the speed trailers out in the wintertime. One, we want to preserve it because the roads have to be salted. And we want them to last, and they do a great job, and we don't want to hinder their staff doing a phenomenal job taking it from curb to curb. So we pull in. But the other 2 pole signs can be deployed in cold temperature. The speed trailers will work in cold temperature. If something major happens, we'll pull them out. We've had unbury them up a Dewey Road. They were plowed in probably 2.5 feet of snow at one point. But we had to dig them out, and then we put them away. We conditioned it so it's ready for the next year. Like the one we sent out there today, we had to take care of some tire issues because they deflate over the winter months. So we're doing the maintenance ourselves, so that we're trying to keep it as cost effective as possible. But there will be some manufacturing malfunctions that occur. This is the one smaller sign. This will be the second time we have replaced the speed sensor. It's normal, it's not uncommon. They only last so long.
Are there parts that we can keep in stock for those and do that here, or do they always have to be sent out?
We could have one on the shelf if need be, so that it would be a quick turnaround. Just send in, we could have to buy that then, sure.
But you're not buying a part. It's not like, Brad keeps certain light poles in inventory.
Right. This one would be, we're buying it, so there's not, it's a non-budgeted item. So what we have money within our repairs, vehicle equipment repairs that could cover those costs.
So I just wanted to ask the board, because this is the time, if there's an expense that you think we should budget for in this budget, your thoughts on that particular item.
I think if we're looking at potentially lowering the speed limits to 25, I think it's a good investment to help do that. Well, I should ask, Chief, in your experience, do those traffic speed signs, do they generally reduce the speed as people are going by, in your experience?
I think it's an education, so people don't realize they're traveling it. As the ones that were going away from the sign, you saw the data that was a mile over the ones coming towards it when they were on. So it's indicative of, it doesn't matter if they're on or off, it's just, what other, it's the driving behavior, of the community. We all gonna have speed. That's our job. We're gonna stop them when we can. If we have constant ones, that's how we can, with the software, it will tell us, hey, you have a high concentration of people going 10 miles per hour over the speed limit during this time frame. We can deploy an officer to the area with that information. So, it's just nice. People always want to check their speedometer to see if it matches up to something else. Is my speedometer accurate? It's just,
Mine is not.
Not
gonna lie.
So,
But let me ask you a question regarding that. On Fabian, they have that one that is there all the time.
yes.
And it's actually after a hill and into a dip, so I feel like it flags everyone. And then they have another one on Randall Road as you're going towards South Elgin that are just permanent
Yeah,
locations.
we have two of those, one in Sugar Grove on Brenner, and the other one's on Dewey Road, heading south towards Prairie. So
There's one on
they're-
Dewey.
Yeah, so those were purchased when the roads were, used by a private citizen to put them up.
Are the ones that go on the pole, are they significantly less expensive or more expensive as opposed to the ones that are sit on the ground?
The ones on the pole for us are just more manageable to get in areas of the community where we can't get the speed trailer into,
Right.
it is-
I was asking price-wise. So if we were looking at purchasing more,
The speed trailers are somewhere between, I think, $18,000 and $20,000 for one unit now. Now, the radars are up for sale.
They're on sale?
They're on sale until the end of the month. Of course.
I feel like that's shocking.
But it's under, you can get to for under, it's $7,000, I think, plus shipping. So we're probably looking $7,500 for two. But if we do one, it'll be, it's not at the discount sale.
That would follow this budget though, because you're saying by the end of this month.
We could, yeah, that would.
What do we have? Just out of curiosity,
So we have a projection surplus of 57,000, or next year budget's 55.
Okay. So we should go in either budget. But he's got a sale. I just want to.
He said sale.
He's got a sale. I want to make sure that
Is there a Groupon for that, Shane?
yeah, right. I'm a proponent of that. I'm a proponent of, you don't, I agree with you 100%. You don't realize how fast you're going sometimes, and then you catch that and you're like, wow. And yeah, so, but it's also a work toward making all of our neighborhoods safer. We can deploy them, and he's able to track more data and respond to resident complaints. I think that's what, it's money well spent. Any other thoughts? He's planning it in the budget. He can also plan it in the budget and having come back. This would be an imminent. So this would be, it sounds like, it would fall not in this projected next year budget, it would fall on the surplus we're generating for this, and it still has to be brought back for approval.
I'm good with it. I actually was thinking about something else. Can I bring that up now?
Yeah, can we talk about this item and I can move on to whatever else you want to add? Anyone? Are we good?
Yeah.
It's gonna have to come back for approval, but at least let Chief bring it back for approval before the month is gonna be over. So we have to decide right now, and then we have to retro it on the, right? Well, you can authorize the purchase, and then,
We come back to the 15.
but he's saying by the end of March,
Oh, this, yeah. And then ratify.
ratify it.
So is that
That's
for
within
the,
their administrator's budget, though.
What's your spending limit?
It's not budgeted.
It's not budgeted.
Oh, it's not budgeted. So,
is that for the pole one? That's
the whole one,
Oh,
not
yeah.
the trailer.
Yeah, I like the pole ones. If they're easier to put in more neighborhoods. or
And did we
whatever.
bring this back at 6 months? Did we bring this at the 6-month review and we just kicked it? Okay.
The pole ones are also very nice. They say thank you.
Oh, look at that.
So you're helping
So-
the cause in Windsor?
I know it's a better value to get two, but I think to be, just knowing that we need one, I think I would be a proponent of pushing for just one additional unit. Thoughts?
Jimmy, can we do retroactive?
ratifying it on April 15th, because it's still budget year end.
Should ask me.
Yes.
Go ahead.
I know, that's fine. I do want to look at your code with regards to that, but we can opine upon that fact.
No, probably.
So if it's only the one, that is under spouse.
Well, then it's, yeah, then it's not an issue.
Because it would be under 5,000, which is purchasing, not for unbudgeted.
I think it's 10 for budgeted, 5 for unbudgeted, so if you wanted to, I was looking at it under the 10, so, but we could do the 1.
If we do one, we have no issue, because it's obviously within administrative.
Okay.
No, it's fine.
One's fine, trustee Michaels? Okay. Okay, chief, you can get one more. Thank you. Okay, trustee Bounty, you had an issue, something for this budget.
Yeah, as we're talking about this, I just remembered seeing it in Matt, maybe, that's, so the letter that just went out, which was well received by a lot of my neighbors and people through the village. Are we doing that, is that once a year, or what's that set at for?
So right now,
our newsletter,
that type of one is not at all in next year's budget. We did that back to the internal one where we're going to just be sending water bills. The newsletter that went out last week was the one time that was added at the projections. So right now there's 1,500 in there, which is basically covering paper and us shipping it to our third millennium to put in water bills. So the version that was just done is not in the budget at all.
I really like that, and I know I talked to some residents from other neighborhoods in town that came across them. The way that it was formatted was highly received. They really liked it, and it was the first time that many of them, the newer ones in the town, actually got some information directly from us as a village without it being on social media, posted on our Facebook page or whatever. So I would like to see if we can try to incorporate that more somehow, if we can. I don't know about the rest of you guys, but I think that was something that was really nice and kind of show how professional we are in our village. I like that. So can we look at trying to figure out some money to get that done again?
Yeah, because like I said, we have about 55,000 right now that's budgeted as our surplus. We have 1,500 currently in there, so that last one cost just over $4. It was $1,516 for postage and a little over $2,500 for the actual printing. So somewhere around $8,500 to do twice, about $4,100, $4,250 depending on next year costs to do it once. So I guess however many times the board wants to, it's going to be, I would say around 4250.
I'm a fan of every 6 months. I mean, twice a year, giving information, updates on the village, things that we're doing, stats, money, budget issues, things like that. Just let everybody know. I don't know about the rest of you guys. Maybe you guys speak up about it, but
We used to share communication, I don't even know if I call it like a flyer. Well, there's a few pages we shared it with other taxing districts. But it gave a little bit from us, a little bit from the library, a little bit from the township. This one was, I think, more focused. And I don't know about multiple times, but for sure with the State of the Village address, I think that communicating that to all residents, I think is really important and impactful.
Agreed. I think the content needs to be reviewed by the board. There's nothing to come before the board to show. It seemed more like a political piece, and I think, the trustees have to have an opportunity to submit something. The board picture should be there, not just the village president. So I think we need to have more discussion on it, but I think once a year is appropriate.
There's always, on every water bill we put out, there's a resident's corner. I don't know if you didn't do that in the past, but that's something that I've done. It's not a political piece. If you've received any political pieces from me, they're coming, and I have sent them.
And after our last meeting, there should be a way to black out non-residents from the mailing, because there's a non-resident water bill, so we should probably look at narrowing down the postage to just residences.
Well, I think if they're paying the water bill, they would like to see some of the information where their tax money or their building money is going.
But they're not village residents,
But are they paying money to the village?
for water.
So they're paying money to the village?
Not taxes.
But they're paying money to the village. So my point would be that if they're paying money to the village, if I was paying money to the village, regardless of what I'm paying, Trustee Michaels, I would like to see what's going on in the village. I'm giving them my money for services. I would like to know what is going on.
But we didn't talk about just water. We didn't.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we're here to, I don't know about the rest of the board, but I'm not here to authorize and approve every single thing that staff in the village does. I mean, they're running the village. Did you have staff go over every single thing that you did when you were mayor?
Yes, I don't know. I can't answer that. So.
I don't think so.
But no, it's a
think-
way to cut down on the expense and hit our target market being the village.
Yeah, I think the point is to get information out to the village. That's what I receive from my neighbors and from other people within this village. And I specifically asked them about that letter because I knew that it cost money to send that out. I knew you were against it. I knew that you wanted to go with the township on it. And I like the fact that it was just one thing, but I also talked to a bunch of residents to find out, hey, would it have been more beneficial to do these other things? And not one of them said that they were against it, and not one of them thought it was political. So I think there's, if this wasn't delivered at a political time, I don't think it would have been taken as political paperwork being signed. I think that if this was an off-election year, that it would have hit just as it would have been. So making allegations about it being political, I think that's inappropriate. And I don't think that this is the right place to make those allegations either. But I think we need to circle back and focus on the fact that we need to let I've said this since day one, we need to tell our neighbors, our family, our friends that live in this community what we are doing. We sit up here every single month and we go through all this paperwork trying to make this village a better place for everybody that's here. And we don't do a very good job at telling people what we do. And I thought that was a great example of showing people the things that we've done. You may not agree with it. You may not agree with us with everything that's in there. But one thing is true. Those are all facts that were in that. So I like it. If you want to go over it as a trustee and look through and approve whatever goes in there next time, I guess so be it. But I would like to concentrate on sharing more information with our residents. And I think anybody who pays any money, regardless of what it is to the village, should at least have the opportunity to look and say, hey, my money's going to the village, this is what they're doing.
And then maybe to your point, we should expand it to include something on water and sewer for the next time. So it does address non-residents. So
I'm all right with that too, to include more. Yes, yeah.
So we're talking about budget, and so it's just a question of whether we put the item in, not whether we spend it.
Correct.
I mean, I don't think, I'd be okay budgeting one or even two. Doesn't mean we're gonna spend it.
Right. We can bring it back. So that's good. I'd rather put the item in the budget. One, go ahead.
For one?
I think you should put it in for two, and the reason being is we go into the fall, so if you did it in the spring and you do it in the fall, there's a lot of transition in the village that happens in the fall. There's a lot that's going on community-wide. There could be a page that's focused in on every event or things that are happening, whether it be everybody needs a reminder that time of year about refuse when it stops, all those things.
Leaf burning.
Yes, leaf burning as a reminder, right? So I like the idea of flagging the year, the beginning and the end. I did receive very positive feedback that they wanted to know, because there was an inside tablet, which I didn't lay it out, by the way. Staff did it, as they normally do with the water bills, with Meredith. But the inside cover, where it gave a timeline of what was going on with the Crown development. They looked at that and they said, this was exactly what I was looking for. So, I guess it depends on the audience that you're talking to. We can't share enough information. And when we directly give it, especially to our seniors that aren't necessarily on social media or checking their email, as we all get bombarded with email, it was a great piece to mail to our residents. So I think we need to stay with that plan, what the messaging is and what goes on there. I like that it did incorporate a lot of the state of the village points. So every mayor should be doing the state of the village every single year and telling the community what's happening. That should be in a mail piece, and then in the fall, it can be a different story. But I think I would wholeheartedly support putting that in the budget, and, you know, these are communication pieces that people like, and we do look like a professional village when we're putting something like that out, so it was a different tone too.
Question on something like that, because I had a email from a resident who was asking about getting information out to more of our seniors and about information on anybody who might be having issues with food insecurities during this time, and is there any way we can incorporate some of that information? You know, we have a great food pantry, the senior center gives the free meals.
Senior lunch, yeah.
Yep, and stuff like that, we could do that too.
We absolutely can.
Because
and I think part of that, I would say to you, Trustee Lundy, is we also need to do a better job. You know, we're so, like all of us, we're so tunnel focused on what our role is. And even though we cost share in a lot of different ways and we collaborate with the other taxing bodies, we need to be soliciting information from them that we can share on those social media channels, on our website, and on our mail pieces, our water bills, our different things, our calendar. I mean, our village website calendar should incorporate a lot of the things happening within the community.
I just know the mailer might get more seniors than it does somebody else, you know, because I think they're less likely to go online and get something, so.
Yes, agreed. And the township is much larger than the size of the village, and
Right.
that's why we want to make sure our residents know what's going on in their benefit. Okay, may I?
Sorry, I didn't realize that was gonna be such a hot button topic.
No, it's okay. Can you add that in, and then just bring them back for approval when they come up? Okay? Okay. Anything else? Does anybody else want to add or do anything to this budget? Okay, I have one more thing. It's small. Landscaping in and around that 56 landmark sign. So last year we had to remove the, I almost want to call them used, but they're not. They were something else. Because
They were
they used? Okay.
plants.
They were plants, and we couldn't move the lights because the lights are, you know, in concrete and they're there, but it was casting shadows on the road. So anyway, staff removed them. We talked to the landscaper about outcroppings, and we worked with the enhancement committee on this too. So making that sign not over the top entrance monument, but there are plants that still remain. They were perennials, so that it will come back. But putting in some landscaping and some flagstone to hold some of the earth up. I think that they originally talked to us about a whole wall in front of it, which I think is a little overkill for that area. I think a little flagstone to help hold some earth up so that they can have some plant material there. Would the board be okay if we budgeted some dollars toward that effort?
Is it not in the beautification committee budget?
We
Supposed
scaled that budget back for this year when we were unsure how the grocery tax was gonna work out. So I think in this year's budget moving forward, Matt, it was at $5,000 in the beautifications budget. It's $5 budgeted. I think that project might eat up that entire budget. So I just wanted to see if maybe the board wanted to bring it back to 10, and then they can come back in front of the board. So it's adding another $5,000 to the enhancement budget.
I'm opposed to an enhancement project, so I'm against raising it. I'll stay with the 5, but not raise.
I'm always for enhancing our community. I think it shows pride in your community and helps developers come and be attracted to our community. And when you let it go and you don't do those things, we're here trying to attract.
I think 5,000 in front, around that sign is pretty good.
So you'd be okay putting it into a different budget besides the beautification committee?
Yeah, I think that sign needs particular attention, but, you know, it's, I think the beautification committee has had opportunity to plan things, and we haven't seen any plans for that sign.
Well, they have plans, they're just really expensive, so it had to be scaled back. So that's why we're here talking about new budgets.
So.
Well, I would have thought they would have had the plan budgeted, at least get a bid or estimate of what the cost is, so we could be budgeting in with the upcoming budget as opposed to pulling numbers out of the air now.
We have a number, $17,000.
But we haven't seen that. And that's the whole process, the point of the budget process is to bring up
You're not getting
expenses.
quotes on every single item, you're talking about future expenses that you anticipate.
That's a big one.
And that's too much, which is why they have $5,000 in their budget. $17,000 is too much money to spend on that sign. And we were trying to figure out, okay, well, if that's $17,000, I know Brad's working with the contractor to say what is a reasonable number to still accomplish the flagstone and the those outcroppings and then additional plantings. That's where we're at.
So what number would you like to budget?
I would like to put it in total of $10,000, whether it's
For that
$5,000
sign.
more into his particular budget and keep the $5,000 in the enhancement committee, that those dollars all still come back to the board for approval.
If that's the goal, I could go along with that. It was, sounded like it was a whole nother budget item, more than $17,000. We had no clue what type of dollar amount.
We got it for $17,000, we didn't have the dollars to do it, it was an overscaled project, it was too much for what we needed.
Okay.
So you're thinking of putting another 10 into Public Works for that?
Five.
Okay.
So we have $10,000 in total between enhancement and Brad, and that way, it still has to come back in front of the board.
That's the first I've heard about $17,000 estimate and that they've
Well,
been working on it.
staff works on stuff outside of the boardroom, and then we have discussions here, and this is a discussion item as we're talking about this budget, so that's when we talk about it.
I would have thought it would have come up earlier in our budget discussions as opposed to last.
We just received the numbers when we took over.
Okay?
I'm good with it.
You're good with that, all right, we're gonna add, you're good?
Yeah, absolutely.
Here, Trustee Lindy? Okay. Five,
First
so
impression.
5 and 5, so now adding another 5,000. Okay. Any additional items? So it seems like we brought up, let me just for clarification, Matt, we added 5 and then we added 8, 7. We added 7.
Is it on sale?
I don't know if one
Just the
item is
other
on
one.
sale. Okay,
Sorry, Chief.
all right, hearing no more discussion, we will be done with that budget discussion. And close that portion. Yeah, where am I? Okay, we're at staff reports. Scott?
Thank you. I wanted to, Trustee Lindy brought it up about the food insecurity and and our, what we have in the village to go there. Oh,
That's
I'm
okay.
sorry.
Go ahead.
So we went to the food pantry today at their new location for the first nonprofit visit. Myself and President Cohen went there. We met with the leadership and asked a lot of good questions about them. We're going to be highlighting them on our social media coming up to let people know about it. And then we would roll that into potentially one of the two mailers that we do, probably the fall one, as the spring one's going to be focused on budget and state of the village. So the fall one's a great opportunity to highlight some the nonprofits that we're going to be visiting. And also to your end about getting these to the seniors' hands, I have requested additional of the newsletters that went out to get a couple stacks so that we can go out and get those to seniors. And from what we found out, most of the customers at the food pantry are seniors and then families with young children. That's the vast majority. And we're going to get out information about how you can volunteer if you want to, how you can donate if you want to, what people need to do if they want to sign up, and get a lot of good information out about the food pantry. They're doing a great job. Thanks to EEI for hosting them for so long, and now the township for being a great partner. They do a lot of good work out there with a lot of great volunteers. So we'll be highlighting them. So I didn't ask him to bring it up, but it was pretty funny that we just did that today. So great timing. But excellent organization, and we're going to look to see what we can do to help them and highlight them whenever possible from our events and from our information. So great group.
Thank you, Scott. Any questions for Scott? Additional questions? Okay, hearing none, Matt?
I just want to highlight on here the electrical aggregation bid, just to kind of highlight what we're seeing as far as tariffs. We went out to bid, as my report said, on March 4th. We received them the night before, and then the morning we were supposed to come into agreements. They had pulled them back before so we received the actual bids that night on the Tuesday. On Wednesday, we had come into an email that they've already rescinded them due to the tariffs that were issued. So we were starting to see that. They redid them a week later. They went up another 3%. And that was for a 3-year agreement. The 2-year went up about 80%. because of the unknown. So, and actually, this is the first year that they actually had 3 different companies win each term, rather than one company actually winning the term. That really just shows the volatility of the unknown. So ours currently went up 29%, and that's for all the well and treatments plans, excluding the solar field that was pulled out. That is it's going to be on its own contract, which we actually just got our bid back today. It's a little hard to determine increases because with the solar, they now have a contract that's on peak and off peak based on the solar production. So I will be doing a little bit more deeper dive in my next half report on that one. We just got those. But just to give you an idea, last year when we did the streetlights, that went up 57%. So just electric in general is going up, but the different types of bids shows you kind of the volatility that is still unknown and out there with all the tariffs and everything.
Thanks, Matt. Any questions for Matt? Hearing none. Move on. Danny?
I have nothing to add.
Any additional questions for Danny? I just want to bring it up because Lou did, that the vet. So I think that is a concern. It brings up a valid point. Your dog gets out of your car, likely in the parking lot, gets on an island and poops on an island. Right? We want to ensure that they are picking up pet waste throughout the parking lot. Okay.
We'll monitor that.
And that's a rental, right? They're renting that?
Yes.
So, course of action would be that they're bad tenants and they would just not renew the lease. Right? I mean, is that kind of how that would go? Or no?
I mean, can you require them to put poop bags out in a garbage can there? I mean, just, that's
a waste pickup thing?
Yeah, I mean, just because if your dog goes, because sometimes you can't control that, and if you don't have the bag with you, if there's one available, because I know outside of Sugar Grove Animal Hospital, they have the bags right there, and a place to deposit it. If they could just put something like that there.
So it's already been approved, so we can't add a condition, but
Right.
Dr. True seems to be great to work with. Michael's got a long relationship with him. I'm sure he'd be willing to do that.
Yeah, because I think that would go a long way, because most people will pick up after pets.
And I think that the parking area in front of it is owned by the owner of the strip center there. And I don't know if we cite the owner.
Yeah, that's what it would ultimately come down to. If it became a problem, the owner would start receiving citations.
And then
Yes,
more
there's a
stuff
process.
outside.
And Dr. Patel's a great partner too, so I'm sure he'll want it.
Yeah.
His restaurants to be keeping it really nice, so we'll work with them to get something.
Anything else, Danny? I'm sorry. Any questions for Danny? Hearing none? Chief?
Okay, 68 to 99, Girl Tribe.
Say that again?
You want a commercial?
Oh.
$6,899 was the 2-pack special, and that was extended. I apologize to June. So
To June.
To June. So just let that in.
What's the singleton price?
They don't give you this. I have to call. I'll take it.
Okay.
Just Nick's school was sent out through the National Weather Service when the tornado I'm sure we went into a tornado warning, as well as we put our Facebook post out too. So the communication just for those they didn't know why. Weather was pretty volatile. The next staff report will show some pictures of the radar and how red it was coming over through Sugar Grove over down through the parking lot. So
It was nice to get a mix alert after we just discussed that, so thank you.
happy to answer any other questions.
Anybody have any questions for Chief? Okay. Thanks, Chief. Brad?
Nothing to add.
Thank you, sir. Hopefully no more snow.
All right, that's good.
Except for that. Okay.
Quick question. So when do we think the pedestrian bridge will be open?
Heidi's gonna
I mean,
say
this
it
nice
now.
weather, everyone's
Shouldn't put
asking.
that in your board report.
There's too many variables based on when they open the asphalt plants and do all that stuff. I mean, they're talking tentative April, May, delivery of the bridge, and then after that's set, they have to build your base to get the bridge in there first. And I haven't heard anything from the asphalt plants yet, giving up an opening date, so that's gonna be a lot of driving.
Well, I saw the engineers, HR Green, at the State of the Village, and they said they're still, got that, they were saying April, May, but I think it's conservative with the May. That it's coming in 2 pieces?
One piece.
You made it sound like it's coming in 2 pieces and assembled on site.
Should do one piece bridge.
Okay, well, hopefully we're not surprised when it comes in 2 pieces. Okay.
So, all right. Also, thank you very much for your quick response with that water main break that we had. You have some very cool trucks. I actually took pictures. It's incredibly cool trucks they had. Giant, and I'll show you the pictures later. It was very cool. I don't get into the big truck things, but it was very neat how it worked.
Awesome. Thanks, Heidi. Anything else for Brad? Okay, Michael Casa.
Just a quick update on the expansion of Sugar Grove Center. Cilantro opened, and they said that their first week far exceeded their projections for sales. And so they're doing very well. Their outdoor patio will be open very soon. And I'm meeting with them Friday to talk about a grand opening, which will be April 3rd at 4:30 p.m. Everybody will get the invite. And then with the approval of the liquor license for Route 47 Wings and Tavern, and then the approval of True Vet, all those spaces are now occupied, or will be occupied, and makes for a very happy tacos. So I think that's coming together really well. As for the outlots, we're working with GMX and CBRE to fill the 3,500 square foot unit that's available. And again, Starbucks is still on track for an August opening, maybe sooner, but certainly by August. And once the building permit's issued, we'll have a groundbreaking ceremony for a few weeks. So just want to give a quick update on Sugar Grove Center.
Thank you, Michael. Any questions for Michael? I know it's not in here, but are you in communication with GMX, and are they on target, on time? Any updates there? No.
They're, again, moving along and expecting hopefully an August opening, but
Okay.
The weather's been cooperating, so they're seems to be moving along.
Okay.
They're
Thanks,
still excavating dirt out of there, so
They push it to the side, but it looks like there's.
Yeah, I'm not sure of what exactly they're doing, but I know the last time I talked to them, which was yesterday, they seem to be on track in terms of the timing.
Okay, thank you all. Trustee reports, trustee Michaels.
nothing to report.
Thank you. Trustee White.
Nope.
Trustee Lundy.
Yeah, I went to, Blisswood's cleanup Saturday at 9 a.m. If anybody wants to go do that with Mario. I also, on Sunday, I went to the library. They had the History of King County Forest Preserve by Al Watts. It's a 100-year anniversary of the Forest Preserve. Fabulous talk about the forest preserves in King County. Mario did the little thing on Bliss Woods, which was fascinating. Did you know they used to have a swimming pool?
No.
Yes.
Show off, he's swimming.
Did he really?
Yeah, it was fascinating, the history on it. Also, the library, if you've not used this before, this is the time. They have a seed library at the library. I used it last year, and they have it again this year. I picked some stuff up. So if you want seeds, you go there. And I think you can get 4 or 5 packets. You go through, and what seeds are there, and you'll take them. You write down your name and what seeds you took. It's fascinating. Our library is just phenomenal. Early voting at the library this week from 2 to 5. Next week, Monday through Thursday from not 2 to 5, it's from 12 to 5. And then Monday through Thursday next week is 12 to 6, I believe. So,
Excellent. Thank you. Trustee Heron.
Nothing to report.
Okay. Trustee Bonnie.
Nothing.
Okay. President's report, you know, everybody's stealing thunder around here. So we did have a very nice visit with, between Friends Food Pantry. They anticipate a ribbon cutting in the near future, so, and they're doing some exciting things. So we will stay apprised of that and share that, but there is a huge need that many people aren't aware of, that people in our community are in need, and they provide amazing service. So kudos to them. And that is all I have for this evening. So thank you for your attendance. It is 9:30. And thank you for staying so long. I have a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second, I have first on trustee Donnie, second on trustee Garrett. Roll call, please.
Trustee Bonnie?
Aye.
Trustee Garrett?
No.
Trustee Michael?
Yes.
Trustee White?
No.
Aye. President Cohen, President Cohen. Aye.
Finally.